probably made you. And we're going to be starting at the very top. This is a man who walked into broadcasting in 1980. He introduced public education talk to this country in 1988. And he also hosted the debates that carried us into 1994. And he sat on the panel of the Mandela de Klerk debate with an estimated 800 people worldwide tuned in. He won the SABC Broadcast of the Year in 1991 and the Radio Hall of Fame in 2011. Guess what? He's also anchored this very slot that I host today. Then it was called AM Live and the After 8 debate from this very building. And should I even say from this very chair that I sit in today. This morning we begin with one of the defining voices of SAFM. Tim Modise is going to be joining me as co-host during the 7 o'clock hour. Can you hear how excited I am about this? It's a really, really big one. I'm looking forward not only to today, but to the rest of the month as we bring in some of the voices of the station. Later, we'll also then turn some questions on him and ask him about the interviews he still remembers, the role of the Public Broadcasting Agency and what he believes SAFM must become in its next 90 years. I want to hear from you. Which SAFM voice, interview or moment has stayed with you? And where were you when you first heard it? What do you love most about the station? These are just some of the things we can share together. As always, you can send those through on the WhatsApp voice note line. We'll also take your calls because these memories form part of this 90 years. But before we get into it, we'll also deal with some of the big questions confronting the country currently. And we're going to be starting off here, right? From the Scorpions to the Hawks and successive battles inside the NPA. Institutions created to fight corruption have repeatedly become weapons in political and personal battles. We've changed the leadership, redesigned the institutions, and promised stronger safeguards, and yet the patterns return. So why can South Africa not build an investigative body capable of pursuing the powerful without itself becoming vulnerable to capture, manipulation, or selective prosecution? Does IDIC need another reset, or must we rethink the entire architecture of the fight against corruption in our country? That's the conversation we'll have after 7 o'clock. And then more than 170 people have been murdered in the Western Cape in just 2 weeks. Police operations continue and soldiers have been deployed, yet communities remain trapped between gangs, extortion networks, and gunfire. We'll ask what really needs to happen to end the killings. And 70 years after more than 20,000 women marched on the union buildings, Women's Month opens with a promise to move beyond slogans. Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga says empowerment must show up in access to finance, markets, and public procurement. She'll be joining us just before we get to the 7 o'clock hour. As always, the conversation belongs to you. You can get in touch with us. Our studio line is 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Rob is standing by with your traffic. Zai has your sport. Ntauleng has your market update. This is the National Briefing.
You are listening to the National Briefing with Cathy Mohlahlana.
Well, it's 13 after 6 o'clock. Let's take a quick look at what's making front page news. The Business Day this morning. A land reform law under scrutiny reads the headline. The DA turns to High Court to resolve GNU stalemate. And it's a dispute that once threatened to unravel the government of national unity. It's now reaching the Western Cape High Court today, with the DA asking judges to strike down a law its own cabinet minister is now legally bound to defend. The DA filing papers seeking to have the Expropriation Act of 2024 declared unconstitutional in a challenge that has been consolidated with two other cases set down for hearing until August the 7th. Now, among the respondents, how awkward is this, is Dean McPherson, the DA politician who serves as the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure and whose department is responsible for administering the act. The arrangement puts McPherson in a really uncomfortable position. He is listed as a first respondent because his ministry is the state's designated expropriating authority. This is in terms of the law. Now, what we understand is that he previously gave President Cyril Ramaphosa a legal opinion warning that the bill was unconstitutional, but the president signed the bill into law in December 2024 anyway, and it was 6 months after the GNU was formed. So this matter seemed to have gone quiet for some time, but now it's firmly back on the agenda. It also then becomes what you will find on the front page of the Citizen this morning, that is leading with land battle threat to GNU. It's the question that it asks, and the DA and AfroForum are taking their fight to the Western Cape High Court, warning that homes and businesses are at risk. With the President and Parliament as part of the respondents, this legal action is the biggest challenge yet to the functioning of the government of national unity. So how's that, right? A government effectively that is going to be fighting itself. But of course, we know that we have different makeups, right, in as far as the parties that constitute the government of national unity. But what does all of this mean for the GNU? And in the front page of the Sowetan, there's a picture there of Banyana vow power to progress in WAFCON. That's the headline there. And there's a picture of members of the Banyana squad who are training, sharing a light moment. It's ahead of the match against Burkina Faso tomorrow. It's a critical match, right? We need Banyana to win. Otherwise, we're going to have serious problems as a country in terms of our WAFCON pursuit. Also, the front page of the Sowetan. WhatsApp with your account hack is a question there. Experts are warning of signs to watch for to prevent fraudsters using your messaging app to scam your contacts. And cyber criminals are using SIM swaps, fake verification requests to target unsuspecting victims. So that's really one of the stories then. And then, it's the main story on the front page of the Sowetan. And they're also running with why Didiza opposes bid to remove Juju from the JSC. And that's the Speaker of Parliament who has rejected a move for the EFF leader to be removed from the Judicial Service Commission. This is despite him having verbally attacked judges for years. The speaker's arguing in court papers, and she's opposing a legal challenge by the Helen Suzman Foundation seeking a court order for the National Assembly to reconsider Malema's suitability as a member of the JC. And we know that the JC interviews and recommends judges for appointment. And then the front page of the Citizen, they're going with a story around the a spike in courier hijackings in Gauteng. Organized criminal syndicates are targeting drivers transporting valuable goods. And then it also focuses on Andrea Johnson, the prosecutor who crumbled under pressure. It really is going to be one of the biggest stories, I believe, not only of the last couple of weeks, but really of the year, right? Given the kind of position she occupied in IDEC and the role that IDEC has played. You know, it was formed after the Zondo Commission of Inquiry to deal with corruption, to avoid, some of the concerns that came up during the commission. So the fact that we are here today is also one of the reasons why it is such a story of consequence. All right, so that's what's making front page news.
Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
It's 19 after 6 o'clock. Let's take a look at your weather. There are no warnings or advisories issued for today. In Pretoria, the weather's fine, 6 and 21. The expected UVB sunburn index is high. Johannesburg, fine, 3 and 18. Vereeniging, frost in the morning, otherwise fine, 0 and 20. Mbombela, fine, 6 and 22. Polokwane, fine, 3 and 22. Mahikeng, fine, 3 and 22. Vryburg, fine, 2 and 22. Bloemfontein, fine, -1 and 20. Kimberley, fine, 3 and 21. Uppington, fine, 6 and 27. Cape Town, partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with fog from the evening. Wind light and variable, 11 and 25. The expected UVB sunburn index, very high. George, fine, wind light and variable, 10 and 26. Gqeberha, fine, wind light northwesterly in the morning, otherwise northeasterly, 8 and 23. Kugombo City, fine, wind light northwesterly in the morning, otherwise northeasterly, 9 and 22. Durban, partly cloudy, wind light to moderate southerly to southeasterly, 15 and 23. The expected UVB sunburn index is high. Richards Bay, cloudy with isolated light showers and rain. Wind moderate to fresh southwesterly, 15 and 24. And in Pietermaritzburg, morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy, 2 and 21.
This Sunday evening at 7 on the Tastemaster Professional, our chefs whip up something sweet for the soul as they head to Bertus Basson's latest restaurant, Ongetem, in the heart of the mother city to celebrate winter desserts. It might be cold outside, but things are heating up in the kitchen. Catch all the drama on the Tastemaster Professional. Sunday at 7, repeat Saturday at 4:30 and Sunday at 3:30, only on SABC2.
The Global Briefing on SAFM.
It's 21 after 6 o'clock. Let's get into our global briefing. So Spain is furious with its own. Madrid is accusing EU partners of selfishness after a deadly surge of crossings into the enclave of Ceuta, reopening Europe's oldest unfinished argument. And that's really who carries the burden and who looks away during times of distress, but especially around the migration debate. Brooks Spector is an international relations expert, joins us this morning. Brooks, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cathy. We haven't spoken to you for a while.
It has been some time. Great to have you on. So what are we dealing with here? Are we dealing with a humanitarian crisis, a border crisis, or a political crisis for the European project?
Yes. To be blunt, I mean, it's a whole mixture of things. To give a little bit of background, Ceuta is a tiny enclave on the northern tip of Africa, where it borders with Morocco, but it's been Spanish territory since the 1600s, and before that it was Portuguese territory back into the 1400s. Most of its inhabitants are Spanish, but not all of them, and a significant minority are Moroccan as well. But what appears to have happened is that word got out somehow that suddenly the Spanish had relaxed their border controls, and it was kind of you all come quickly and find a way to get there. And so people were literally swimming to it and clambering over the border fence and all the rest of it. And by the time the wave had ended, there were more than 50,000 people that had crossed over into the enclave. And the Spanish argued that they were caught off guard like anybody else, but they were accused by their European Union neighbors, all the other countries of the European Union, of having a relaxed, unrigorous approach to unlicensed illegal immigration. If you remember back in the 2016 period, many of the European countries were receiving large numbers of immigrants from battle zones, conflict zones in the Near East. Something like 1 million people had crossed into various European countries, and on the whole, although there were disputes about it, the migrants were treated with a certain degree of respect and were largely accommodated and assimilated into the larger population. But the times have changed. There's a whole different feeling in Europe about illegal or undocumented migration. And at the risk of provoking a discussion on this too, in a way, it mirrors the way South Africa has been treating and been responding to illegal or undocumented immigration as well. So by the time this crisis was over, most of the people who had entered the enclave had realized that this was not a golden pathway to the rest of Europe. The Spanish weren't going to allow that, and you simply can't walk from Ceuta to the rest of Europe. And they largely returned back to Morocco, but not before the Spanish and the rest of the European Union were loggerheads over how to treat such things.
Sure. Brooks, thanks for that. Look, we've also seen the visuals, right? I think you've tried to jam up as much of a history lesson as you can in under 3 minutes. Thanks for that context. Thanks for that context.
We try.
All right. So let's move on to Washington, right? Anthony Fauci is back before the Senate committee. This hearing has been taking place for around 6 years now. Why is COVID-19 still this really politically radioactive in the U.S., and what is this hearing really trying to establish?
Well, I'm part of the. Let's give some background again. Dr. Anthony Fauci was the head of one of the institutes at the National Institutes of Health for many years, the one that deals with infectious diseases and allergic issues. And he was widely regarded nationally and internationally as an expert in the first rank on these things. You will remember when AIDS first became an issue, he was one of the co-leaders of the push to create PEPFAR, the American response to AIDS worldwide, and he should be duly recognized for having worked really hard in making that theory practice, making the possibility of millions of people to be treated and protected and helped. When COVID-19 struck, no one was clear where precisely it had originated or how, and nobody was clear precisely what were the best means of preventing its further spread. By the time it was over, something on the order of 1 million people had passed away in the U.S. from it. Many of them older people or people with other conditions that led them to be weakened even before COVID. But the scenes on TV were absolutely gruesome of people, the deceased, their remains being put in refrigerator trucks parked in the alleys behind hospitals because the morgues had been overflowing. And several of the things that Dr. Fauci recommended, masks, no contact between people, the famous 2 meters distance between people, closing public facilities and institutions, like museums and such, were pushed by him. But of course, he wasn't the official manager of the process. The actual closings and such were done state by state. But now several senators have been after him for years to try to convict him in some way or another for being the mastermind behind the way this happened. The fact that it isn't clear whether or not it was produced by accident in a laboratory in Wuhan, China, or was simply discovered there has been a subject of contestation for years. And one of the grants that the facility in Wuhan got was from NIH in the U.S. to research on things like this. And that was part of Dr. Fauci's work.
Okay.
But other senators were angry that he did not support the idea of taking a chloroquine, an anti-malarial derivative, or ivermectin, something that's used to deworm cattle, as quack cures for it. So there have been a whole series of senators, 3 or 4 of them in particular, who have been at his throat for some time for various causes, and this has now given him a great deal of aggravation. And somebody got a hold of his diary that he kept throughout those years, all 1,000 or so pages of it. And it shows a man who was suddenly startled by the public acclaim and celebrity that his work was producing. And he, in turn, has been afraid that somehow what he said in private in his diary will conflict with some judgment he may have had later on. So in the Senate hearing, he took the Fifth Amendment, which is I'm not going to testify and self-incriminate myself for fear that he might accidentally, presumably, commit perjury. And so that's where we are now. His reputation has been rather tattered after he's an 85-year-old man who'd given, half a century of work on horrible diseases, and now he's being held up to public ridicule.
Sure. Brooks Spector, we're going to have to leave it there for today. International relations expert on some of the stories, right, making international headlines. I said earlier, I want to hear from you. Today is a special day. We're starting a special month here on SAFM, 90 years of the SABC. And I also did say Tim Modise joining me from 7 o'clock. We're going to be co-hosting the show together. I'd really, really hope that you're going to be tuned in for that. I'm certainly looking forward to it. It's 6:30. Let me hand you over to the news desk.
Thank you, Cathy, and a very good morning. On the news headlines, I am Onde Lambana. The Western Cape High Court will today hear a legal challenge brought by AfriForum, the Institute of Race Relations, and the DA against the Expropriation Act. President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Expropriation Act in January 2025. The Electoral Commission says it will close the voters' roll at midnight on the day of the proclamation of the election date. The IEC says no new registrations or changes to voter details will be accepted after the deadline. And U.S. President Donald Trump says new negotiations with Iran will begin today on reopening the Strait of Hormuz and ending Tehran's nuclear ambitions. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We start in Pretoria with still the all clear on the N4, the Bakwena Highway, going through Durham Plaza towards the M1 and the M1 South, coming through Pumalani down through the run into Montana. Sometimes you get some overnight roadworks, which can have a major impact, but not this morning. Coming out of Pretoria North, it's quite heavy. Paul Kruger down to Vanderboom Junction is slow. And then Paul Kruger, more backlogs into that Capital Park area. Looks like a busy one out of Pretoria North, heading towards the CBD area. Joburg's N1 just starting to queue up into 14th Avenue on your way to Bayers Nordier. Looks like an issue just past the exit, and the Mike 1 from Boyson's already loaded up through to Empire Road this morning. Durban coming in off the south coast, busy but moving around Choti, Prospect and area. Truck crash recovery will be required to clear a truck on the N2 north approaching Belito. It's crashed off into the right-hand barrier there, so just one lane to get past that. Pietermaritzburg Ashburton section looking fine. That can be a bit tricky when you get breakdowns or crashes, but it's okay at this stage. And into Cape Town we go with a breakdown near Rappenberg Road to the N2 inbound, pretty slow this morning. It's a big volume Monday coming in from Khayelitsha. There's a lot of traffic this morning, all going slow right through to Rappenberg Road. The M7, Jakes Herville, is a heavy queue out of Mitchell's Plain towards the R300. There's a lot of mist, heavy in places around Cape Town, so keep those lights on through the morning if it's misty where you are. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai Khan, good morning to you. Kaiser Chiefs, they finished top of the Betway Premiership. I know it's just match day 1, but
Can you see?
top of the Premiership.
They're looking down on everyone already, Cathy. Selma, stop it. I mean, it's only one match. One weekend. 1 weekend. Oh, wow. It feels like we're
Can you just give Chiefs their flowers, okay? Because when they don't have flowers, you definitely don't give them out freely.
Wow, Kaiser. And take a photo while you're giving them the flowers. Because that's what they want. They don't mind being top of the log just for now, okay? It's early days. Early days. But yeah, Chiefs are the early pace setters in the Betway Premiership. What an entertaining opening weekend. Amakosi recovering from a halftime deficit to beat promoted Kruger United 3-1 with substitute Wandile Duba stealing the show with that second half brace. The defending champions Orlando Pirates also opened with 3 points, defeating Milford FC 2-0 at Orlando Stadium through goals from Oswin Apollos and Sepang Moremi. Polokwane City celebrated a valuable 2-1 away win over Richards Bay, while Stellenbosch claimed a 1-0 victory against Amazulu. Sekhukhune United edging Durban City by the same scoreline. Tears Galaxy fought back twice to earn a 2-2 draw at Siwelele FC, and Golden Arrows and Chippa United shared the points in the weekend's only goalless encounter. Rugby now, the Springboks have arrived safely in Buenos Aires ahead of Saturday's test against Argentina, with coach Rassie Erasmus confirming preparations are on track. The squad travelled in 2 groups via Sao Paulo and will use the day to recover from the long journey. They will start their training today. Erasmus says most of the hard work has already been completed, and that was during last week's training camp in Johannesburg. Let's go to athletics, where South Africa wrapped up the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow with 28 medals, 1 more than the tally achieved in Birmingham 4 years ago. Despite sending a much smaller team, the swimmers once again led the charge, collecting 23 of the country's 28 medals, with Peter Coetzee producing a standout campaign with 6 medals. Athletics contributed with 4 medals, highlighted by Sinasipo Dambile's gold, and that was in the men's 200 meters. Judo also adding the remaining podium finish. In the meantime, South Africa's 4x100 meters relay team disappointed after being disqualified in the Commonwealth Games final for a lane infringement. The quartet of Akani Simbine, Bradley Nkwana, Mvuyo Moss and Cheswell Johnson had crossed the line 5th after going into the race as medal contenders. Simbine says they were never quite finding their rhythm.
Yeah, it wasn't as smooth as we wanted it to be. It just wasn't a smooth race for us, from the start. It just didn't get going. Yeah, we came with the fastest time, but at the same time it's the game, man. It's part of the game. We didn't get our changes over, we didn't get our runs in, so it's part of it.
And finally, golf. The 2-time major champion Zach Johnson captured the inaugural Portugal Invitational with a brilliant final round 65 at the Els Club in Villamora. That's your sport. Swing back for more. Top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
This FNB Market Brief is brought to you by FNB Business, empowering South African entrepreneurs with the relevant insights they need to grow and succeed every day. The Market Brief with Ndauleng Lechela on SAFM.
Happy Monday in Taoleng. So this morning we're watching oil retreat as OPEC Plus restores supply.
Good morning, Cathy. Now, OPEC Plus has approved a modest production increase from September. completing its plan to restore the oil supply it had previously cut to support prices. But the additional barrels, of course, unlikely to have an immediate impact, with export disruptions continuing to limit supply from some members. Instead, markets are focused on easing geopolitical tensions. As you mentioned there, oil prices are trending lower, down 4.8% this morning to just below $84 a barrel. And this comes after President Trump said he had called off a planned strike on Iran, raising hopes that supply through the Strait of Hormuz will remain uninterrupted. For now, that offers some relief for inflation fears and could ease pressure on fuel prices if the trend is sustained. Moving over to economic data, consumer confidence in the world's largest economy improved in July, with Americans feeling more optimistic despite concerns around energy volatility and lingering cost of living pressures. A closely watched University of Michigan survey also showed inflation expectations eased, suggesting households are becoming more confident that price pressures will moderate. The improvement comes as the U.S. economy shows signs of slowing, making resilient consumers increasingly important. Household spending accounts for the largest share of economic activity, meaning stronger confidence could help support growth and reduce concerns that the economy is losing momentum. Tracking equity markets, fresh optimism is filtering back into equities as tensions in the Middle East continue to ease, pushing oil prices lower. Now, stateside, U.S. stocks ended last week in the green. That optimism isn't fully carrying through to the new week, though, with Asian markets mixed this morning. Back home, the JSE All Share also ended Friday slightly lower, shedding more than 0.33%. Moving over to currency markets, the rand firmer this hour at 16.47 to the dollar, 22.19 to the pound, and 19 to the euro. I'll hit pause for now and hand over to you, Cathy, for the business tip of the day.
Thank you, Ndaoling. Our F&B business tip for today is a focus on Women's Month. Women's Month is an opportunity to celebrate women who are building businesses, creating opportunities, and making a meaningful impact in their communities. Behind every successful business is a story of resilience, determination, and a willingness to keep learning and growing. At F&B, we believe these stories deserve to be celebrated because they inspire others to pursue their ambitions and realize what is possible through passion, perseverance, and hard work. This week, we'll be profiling Simpiwe Mota, founder and owner of Lash and Dash, and an F&B business customer whose entrepreneurial journey is a powerful example of turning passion into purpose. This week, ask yourself, what inspired you to start your business, and what keeps you motivated to keep growing? We'll share some of Simpiwe's entrepreneurial journey on the F&B business interview on Wednesday.
The F&B Market Brief was brought to you by F&B Business, your dedicated partner with decades of expertise building and growing South African businesses. F&B, help changes everything. F&B Business is proud to partner with SAFM's The National Briefing. We stand shoulder to shoulder with South African entrepreneurs and businesses because we know building a business is a 24/7 commitment. Whether you're managing cash flow, planning for growth, or navigating challenges, we deliver the sharp insights and practical solutions you need to move forward with confidence. From smart funding options to expert business advice, F&B Business is right there with you. Visit fnb.co.za/business. F&B, help changes everything. Africa in Focus with Advocate Sipho Mantula on SAFM.
A refreshing morning to you, Advocate Mandula. So this morning we're going to start with Tigray in Ethiopia, where we're seeing the region accusing the federal government of launching a military offensive on Saturday.
Refreshing morning and Jumbo Africa says Cathy, as we welcome the Women's Month and also the 90 years of the SAFM from Radio South Africa to SAFM 1995. But looking back at Ethiopia and Tigray, we have been talking about this. You'll recall when Abiy Ahmed went back into office, we say one of his challenges was how to manage the conflict in the northern part and how to implement the Tshwane agreement, what we'll call the 2022 Pretoria agreement that ended a bloody 2-year war between the two sides. It was during the COVID when this conflict started between Addis Ababa, the capital city, as well as the Tigray in the northern part of Ethiopia. Now, the war that has been alleged now is over this weekend, and this also causes fear because once you think of Ethiopia and the Tigray, you think of Eritrea also going to be pushed into this conflict, and how will the African Union respond? Because as the AU headquarters is Cathy, and you still have the conflict between the federal government and the provincial government.
And then to our neighboring Zambia in Lusaka, the ECZ completes ballot delivery. This is the final consignment arriving ahead of elections.
That is quite true. We say 10 days before Zambia decides. Very important. These are your tools of trade when you talk of the electoral management processes, that once you get the final consignment of your ballot papers, you might say there's a state of readiness. But this time they are coming from Dubai, all these ballots, all these tons of the ballot papers that are coming to Kenneth Kaunda International Airport that came over the weekend. And the Electoral Commission saying they are ready in terms of managing these elections that are coming in Zambia on the 13th of August. Remember, we'll touch on it in terms of what is the build-up and what are the issues in terms of the political and election environment, observer missions, and what is the state of the elections in the SADC region.
And we're continuing to see the former Senegalese leader Macky Sall's bid to succeed Antonio Guterres as the United Nations Secretary General continue.
That is quite true, but you see over the weekend they do what they call the first informal straw poll. Since Macky Sall is not doing good, Cathy, also you look at Uganda, Olara Otunu also entering this race at the last minute, not also doing well. It seems that the current SG, the possible SG that will come from Costa Rica. It will be a woman probably for the first time in the UN system of SG. You have a woman like Rebecca Cranston, who is heading the UN Conference on Trade and Development. It seems numbers are now favoring her, and others are saying it means that the UN has made no secret. They want a woman to be the next Secretary General. And coming from Latin America, it seems the men from Africa and from other continents, they won't make it. The appointment will only happen in 2027.
Why does a part of me, Advocate Mantula, feel like maybe Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka should have just been the one taken there? She's headed UN Women before. Surely it should be natural progression, right? Couldn't we argue that?
Absolutely, and there are many, Olonko also from Nigeria, the women who came from there. There were
Amina Mohammed, yes.
Amina Mohammed, Gertrude Mongela, but I don't think they've read the signs. Sometimes they say you need to read the signal, you need to have enough data so that you can engage on this platform.
All right, let's get into our historical archive.
Cathy, we are going 40 years ago when the President Kenneth Kaunda, KK, calling Margaret Thatcher to say must be excluded from the South African sanctions. But let's take a clip where he just talked about his relation with the apartheid leaders and who he still favor on the engagements.
Then came another Boer leader, Botha, I think it was called Botha. Same train, this time between Botswana and South Africa. I said, look, release Nelson Mandela and his colleague. Discuss the future of South Africa together. You're all members of this country. Talk together. I didn't succeed. 12 hours came to nothing. Then came my meeting with de Klerk. He was not Prime Minister yet. He was only Secretary General of the Boer Party. And after a few hours, I called a press conference. And I said, I think I can do business with this man. Thank God he became Prime Minister and he raised this great man.
No, here, Cathy, even if we are touching on the apartheid South Africa, but here is that Margaret Thatcher was seen that he could not impose economic sanctions against the then apartheid South Africa, and hence Kaunda was too harsh on engaging with these British leaders. Remember, we have dealt with it even last month on one of the leaders in Britain when he said he was kissing apartheid. This is Cathy, as we enter the Women's Month, bit sad with what has happened in the grave of Robert Sobukwe and Mme Sobukwe. We'll touch on it when maybe probably go towards commemorating the day of Neverenka Sobukwe. Because I think I'm pushing you here to say we are in search of this SAFM woman as we are celebrating 1936 to 2026, and also 1956 to 2026, the month of Abu Mama in Bogoto. Asante sana.
Durban, the promenade is calling and the purple wave is taking over the East Coast. It's time to lace up for the Hollywood Bets Durban 10-kilometer road race on Sunday, 30 August. The race covers the beautiful tour of the city, combining urban streets, scenic coastal roads, and stunning beachfront stretches with views of the Indian Ocean. Catch all the action live on SABC2 and SABC Plus from 7 a.m. on Sunday, 30th of August. The Hollywood Bets Durban 10-kilometer road race, brought to you by SABC Sports.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Top end of Pretoria still looking good on the M1 south coming through Pumalani Plaza down towards Montana. Equally, the N4 through Durham-Port Plaza going east onto the M1. No major roadwork overrun and no backlog. Last week was pretty bad on some days, but this morning it's okay. Staying in the capital, very heavy out of Pretoria North using Paul Kruger and Ruckle de Beer as you line up down to Vanderboom Junction, and a crash at Capital Park causing some delays on Paul Kruger further towards the city centre. Roadworks on Solomon Mshlangu near Delphi, backlogging traffic towards the Garsfontein Junction this morning, and some heavy traffic pressure on the Mike 1 already from Gold Reef City up through to around Oxford Road in the Parktown area. Durban, Marion Hill on the Richmond Road, that is slow. The N2 North queuing up from the M7 into the roadworks at Westwood Mall, so that's a pretty early start to some reasonably heavy backlogs. And Cape Town, the top story there this morning, really the thickness of the mist, to make sure you got extra time to get through it safely, and no traffic lights. M7 R300 junction, heavy on both of those routes, leaving Mitchell's Plain. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This Sunday evening at 7 on the Tastemaster Professional, our chefs whip up something sweet for the soul as they head to Bertus Passon's latest restaurant, Ongetem, in the heart of the mother city, to celebrate winter desserts. It might be cold outside, but things are heating up in the kitchen. Catch all the drama on the Tastemaster Professional, Sunday at 7, repeat Saturday at 4:30 and Sunday at 3:30, only on SABC2.
90 years of conversations, recaptured, relived, and projected. SAFM.
So what has been your participation at the summit meeting in the convention center as opposed to what's happening at Nasrec?
Well, many of us who are in the convention center have been following the negotiations for the last 1.5 years because there were 3 preparatory meetings before this which dealt with the issues. We have been able to interact with delegations quite freely to be able to lobby and do advocacy work, and that has been one of the positive things of the UN in the last 10 years, in that opening up. So for us, we're in the convention center, 2 parallel things have been happening. There have been plenary discussions on 5 major themes: water, energy, health, agriculture, and biodiversity. These involve participation of panels from representatives of civil society, as UN agencies, business, and very lively debates and discussions have taken place. And TV monitors are available throughout the building. We ask for more so that those who can't get into the limited space of the hall can watch them, and that's been quite interesting. However, like I said earlier on, the parallel process of the real negotiations over very difficult issues among the government members are not really that open by the nature of 12 or 13 little groups. So for those, we have to really talk to delegates, find out from them what's happening, and obtain the tags so that we can do analysis, get back to them and do our lobby work. So, and we also wonder how much of the open plenary discussions.
From the voices that shaped our past to the conversations defining our future, SAFM celebrates 90 years. From the voices that shaped our past to the conversations defining our future, SAFM celebrates 90 years.
All right, let's get into this story now. More than 170 people have been killed in 2 weeks. This is in the Western Cape. News 24 counted more than 110 dead in a space of 8 days at the end of last month alone. Nyanga, Kailicha, Mitchell's Plain. Those are the areas most affected. The soldiers have been on the streets since April under Operation Prosper. However, we're seeing little impact on that in the number of those that are being killed. So what will actually stop the bloodshed? Mike Bolhes is a special investigator into serious violent economic and cyber crimes. Mike, good morning to you.
Morning, Cathy, and thank you for the opportunity.
When we look at these figures, right, 170 murders in 2 weeks, it seems unbelievable. What does this tell us about the scale, organization, and confidence of the criminal networks in the Western Cape?
Well, it's clear. It's been going on now for quite some time that the army has been deployed for more boots on the ground, not to replace the police, but to assist the police, but it's not been effective. And I think the main reason is that a real and proper policing is still not in place. You need extreme units that are specialized in organized crime and gang violence and racketeering. And they need to concentrate on their heads. But now you can see that anybody or whoever dies is easily replaced. Crime pays. And crime escalates because they can commit the crime and can get away with it.
At which point do you think government needs to call it, recognize that the strategy they're implementing so far is not working, and go back to the drawing board and really come up with solutions that are going to have a meaningful impact?
Well, ultimately, the government and the ANC is to be blamed from the beginning. So, if you're president of a country, you are responsible. There's no two ways about it. If something goes wrong in my organization, they're not going to say that person or this investigator. They're going to say Mike Bolhes. So the bottom line is the government is responsible. And they've waited too long. They wait till it breaks. And that's with everything. When it talk about potholes or electricity or water or sewage, it's the same thing. But it's worse with violence and crime, because this is the public, and there's no real relationship between the public and the authorities and the government. And that's probably the biggest problem, because nobody comes forward. The gangs have established very clearly that they are frightful, dangerous, and deadly. If you talk, you die. And it's as easy as that. They easily get guns. They definitely pry on the poor and the illiterate and abuse people. And they definitely are not only just committing gang violence, they're going into other forms of violence, including that in gang violence like extortion, kidnapping, and other forms of cyber crimes that they commit as well. So they escalate in their crimes as well, and they are broadening their spectrum to other areas as well.
Sure. Mike Bolhes, we're going to have to leave it there. So there are clearly no easy answers to the challenge of violence in the Western Cape. But doesn't that make your blood chill, right? The death toll, doesn't it make it just, it's unbelievable that it's not a war zone, and yet we're counting the numbers that we are in as far as people killed.
The National Briefing on SAFM.
Well, let's move on to this story now. 70 years after more than 20,000 women marched on the union buildings, the government says the time for slogans has passed. This is because women still face barriers to finance, markets, procurement, technology, equal pay, amongst others. So what will be measurably different when this Women's Month ends? Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga joins us. Minister, good morning to you. Thanks for your time. So you say women need economic power, not slogans. Perhaps give us 3 measurable commitments that government is going to deliver this month with targets and with deadlines?
Thank you very much, Cathy. Let me greet your listeners, but also say happy and blessed Women's Month to all South African women. Indeed, we are celebrating 70 years post the March of 1956. And as government, but also private sector and everybody, we set targets now for the coming August. And during August, we say to everybody, showed us what you were doing from the 1st of September until August the following year. And therefore, departments, for instance, such as small business development, they launched a women's fund, for instance, and which happens during the period I'm talking about. And it's time that they say, this is what we did, I'm making an example, and these are the women that we are targeting. As the department itself, we have set ourselves some target to say, through the Empower Her Trade Fair, we will invite women, in fact, finance institutions, investors, and possible market to a round table where they are going to pledge on the number of women they are going to empower, and of course how they are going to empower those women, but also the scorecard that they must present to us to say this is how you're going to know that these are the women that we are empowering.
So,
because what we have also we've discovered.
Sorry to come in there. We don't have a lot of time. It does sound to me that you have you've left a lot in the hands of the other role players to come back and do some form of reporting, give feedback, which is great, but there surely must also be targets that you as a department are setting for these entities, are setting for the private sector, for the government agencies and entities when it comes to the change that you want to see?
For women empowerment, first for women representation, it was clear it's 50% women must be represented in any of positions, etc. But for empowerment, in terms of public procurement act, 40% must go to women. So we're no longer talking about what we wish, but what the act is saying. And we are saying the Department of Finance is busy with the regulations, and we are calling upon women to participate so that the regulations themselves should not form part of barriers that make it difficult for women to access even that procurement we are talking about.
We know that has been on the table for a while now, but it hasn't been actioned, Minister. You said this last year in August month about 40% procurement. It hasn't happened yet.
As a matter of fact, it is. That is why departments are reporting how they empower women every 3 quarters. And it has to be in their reporting. And if you fail to do that, then you cannot get a clean audit. So in the public sector already it is happening.
So
not
government
be where
departments
we want
are
to be.
all procuring at 40% for women?
They should. In fact, they should.
No, not they should. Are they doing it?
Not all. Definitely not all, but they should be doing that. And if not, they should be punished even through audit. And like I'm saying, the 50% representation of women is already happening. But of course, like we are saying, it cannot be government alone, Cathy, because government, yes, will have public procurement, but the private sector as well. And that is why we are saying to departments, ensure that the private sector that you work with, those that apply for your tenders and get your tenders, they must be able to employ women as well.
Okay.
But also where they've got to come again.
All right. Minister, we're going to have plenty of other opportunities to engage this month. I hope you're going to be back on the platform. That is Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Sindisiwe Chikunga. It's time for your latest news update.
Theft, accident, and 1 million rand third-party cover for your older car. Outsurance Essential has it all. Get a quote. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, court to hear a legal challenge on the Expropriation Act, and Robert Sobukwe's grave vandalized again. For SAfm News, I am Lambana, and a very good morning. The Western Cape High Court will today hear a legal challenge brought by AfriForum, the Institute of Race Relations, and the DA against the Expropriation Act. President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Expropriation Act in January 2025. The EFF and the Land Reform and Rural Development Minister Mzwanele Nyonzo have applied to be respondents as well. Marisa Whitehead reports.
AfriForum wants the court to declare certain sections of the Expropriation Act unconstitutional, which among other things enables expropriation without compensation. AfriForum has cited President Ramaphosa, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, the National Assembly Speaker, and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces as respondents in the matter. The DA wants the act to be declared unconstitutional. The party alleges that the act was passed through a defective parliamentary process and says key provisions are vague, contradictory and incompatible with the constitutional protection of property. Marisa Whitehead, SABC News.
On election news, the Electoral Commission says it will close the voters' roll at midnight on the day of the proclamation of the election date. The IEC says no new registrations or changes to voter details will be accepted after the deadline. This was the Commission's last voter registration this weekend ahead of the local government elections on November the 4th. The Commission's CEO, Simon Mabulu, has urged eligible voters to register.
The Commission will immediately publish an election timetable in terms of which certain cut-off dates and times will be set for the performance of various electoral functions, such as the publication of lists of voting stations, the publication of the provisional voters' roll for purposes of inspection, setting out the date for the applications for special votes, as well as the cut-off date for the submission of lists of candidates.
The man accused of the murder of DA ward by-election candidate and community activist Sinovuyo Gyokwe is expected to appear in the Cape Town Magistrates Court today. The 37-year-old was arrested 2 weeks ago during a joint intelligence-driven operation in Parklands. He faces charges of premeditated murder and extortion. Gyokwe was gunned down in June near Milnerton on her way from a voter registration venue on the 20th of June. The accused has another case of business robbery pending in Malmesbury. The court has heard that he has one previous theft conviction. He is in custody. The grave site of PAC founding member Robert Sobukwe has been vandalized at his hometown in Robert Sobukwe Town, formerly known as Grafrenet in the Eastern Cape. This is a second time the grave has been vandalized this year, as the first incident happened in March. Speaking on behalf of Robert Sobukwe Town Steering Committee, Nomandla Singeni says they have written to the Department of Arts and Culture calling for enhanced security and relocation of the grave to the Robert Sobukwe Museum.
It is with profound sadness and deep concern that the grave of Utata Robert Sobukwe has once again been vandalized. The extent of the recent damage appears to be significantly worse than the vandalism that took place in March this year. This is not merely an act of vandalism. It is an attack on our national heritage, our memory, and our dignity.
U.S. President Donald Trump says new negotiations with Iran will begin today on reopening the Strait of Hormuz and ending Tehran's nuclear ambitions. Over the weekend, Trump cancelled planned airstrikes, saying his decision followed a request from Iran. He spoke to reporters on board Air Force One.
What we're doing is we're talking to them in the form of a negotiation, and we'll see if it's true. I'd love to do that, save a lot of lives, save a lot of unnecessary power, to be honest with you. It will take many, many years to ever build it back. If it could, I don't think it would be even buildable back. So we had an attack that would be the biggest attack since World War II.
Recapping the top story, the Western Cape High Court will today hear a legal challenge brought by AfriForum, the Institute of Race Relations and the DA against the Expropriation Act. I'm Lambana for SAfm News Headlines at 7:30.
Outsurance Essential is made for older cars. Claims are paid in cash within 5 working days, and you choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
You wouldn't pay caviar prices for fish and chips, so why overpay to insure your older car? Outsurance Essential Car Insurance covers older cars for much less. 51-year-old Musa pays only 451 Rand a month for his 2011 Toyota Corolla and gets a third-party cover of up to 1 million Rand. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 150,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, rugby, the Springboks, they've begun preparations in Argentina ahead of the Rugby Championship opener against Los Pumas. And in soccer news, Orlando Pirates coach Abdusalam Wadu urges patience with teenage star Cameron Danson. We'll have details at around 7:30.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning. We started Pretoria with some heavy traffic along Paul Kruger Street coming in from the north side. It's a jam up down towards Billabong Junction. That's just sort of ruckled a beer on the Paul Kruger, very slow. And then a crash further down at Capital Park, causing quite a big backlog from Mayville as you head into that sea towards Pretoria Central. N1 Brockfontein down to New Road, already loaded up. Joburg's Mike 1 is heavy from Gold Reef up towards Parktown's Oxford Road. And the M1 leaving Soweto queues up towards 14th Avenue exit this morning, looking very busy through there. Durban, the Richmond Road at Marion Hill, going slowly on your way to Pinetown. N2 choked up between the M7 and the roadworks at Westwood Mall, and the Commercial Highway coming from Mallan-Bella Road down towards the N2, looking quite slow as well. Cape Town, the mist is pretty extreme. We've been warning you about mist this morning. It is heavy and it's widespread, and it's a big volume early in the month, back to work Monday. So just make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. You'll have poor visibility and you'll have a big pile up of traffic all over the city. The M1, for example, from Brackenfell through to Coburg Interchange, the N2 inbound from the airport through Hospital Bend, and the M5 struggling along all the way back from sort of Parkwood and Southfield this morning with a crash on that busy M5 North just past the N2 highway. Lights are out. M7, R300, both of those routes heavy out of Mitchell's Plain. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Briefing on SAfm. Clarity, context, and conversation. This is where the day begins with Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
It's 11 after 7 this morning. You're tuned into the National Briefing. I'm Cathy Mohlahlana. As always, a pleasure to be in your company until 9 o'clock. So today marks the beginning of what is going to be a special month for us, not only because it's Women's Month, but because we're turning 90. We're celebrating our 90th birthday, and we're bringing you some of the voices of SAfm. And we're starting in the beginning, right? We're starting with somebody who really needs little introduction. He's one of the voices that we can say is a defining voice of SAfm. I don't even need to introduce him because the minute he comes on, everybody's going to know who you are. It's such an honor for me. Well, you see, even that laugh, right? Even that laugh gives it away. Mr. Tim Modise, good morning to you.
Cathy, good morning to you and to SAfm listeners. Thanks very much for inviting me to be with you here on this wonderful station. And this is used to be my home for years in the 90s. I had a fantastic time here.
So I'm going to have to try not act like a groupie because as he's speaking, it's making me nostalgic. I'm thinking about being a child and hearing Tim Modise's voice on the radio. So I'm not sure whether I'm actually listening to you or listening to the persona that I've grown up listening to.
Well, as you can see, I'm sitting in front of you here, and you've seen me elsewhere, and you've interacted with me elsewhere, so I'm the real person
Tim
that you
Modise-
knew then and that you know today.
So, Brad Tim is just like, Cathy, stop being a groupie. Get yourself together. Hold it together. All right. So, Brad Tim is going to be with us right through until 9 o'clock. We're going to be co-hosting this hour. And then after the 8 o'clock hour, I'm really going to be getting a little bit under his skin, right? And talking about his time here at the SABC and sharing some reflections, some memories with you as our listeners. And of course, we'd love to hear from you as the morning unfolds. Also ahead this hour, the Anti-Corruption Unit created to pursue the state capture accused is now under investigation itself. We'll be asking what went wrong and what can the institution do to be repaired. We'll also then be bringing you the reality check and unveiling our contributor for this week, who is none other than veteran Dr. Mavuso Msimang. He'll be contributing for the entire week on the reality check. As always, the conversation belongs to you. The numbers to dial for our studio line is 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. That's where you can send your WhatsApp voice notes and text messages 0614 104 107. This is the National Briefing.
Pedestrians, winter days are shorter. That means more walking in the dark. If drivers can't see you, your life is at risk. Wear bright or reflective clothing, add reflective strips to your school bag, and use a flashlight when walking at night. Walk in groups where possible. Being visible is not just a choice, it's your protection. Be bright, save your life this winter. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Real Conversations weekdays at 4:30 on SABC2 with me, Penny Libiani, with Ain't Like Let's Connect.
I'm Frederica Lucas, bringing you some of the most inspiring guests and practical advice.
Every evening, we bring family advice and all your favorite celebrities.
It's a big celebration of local talent from across industries.
Catch Ain't Like Let's Connect weekdays at 4:30 on SABC2 or stream anytime on SABC Plus.
As a business owner, you're always looking for ways to save money. But have you looked at saving on your business insurance premium? With OUTsurance Business Insurance, you could save big, like Bosmansdam High School.
We were with our previous insurance for 10 years plus before switching to OUTsurance Business Insurance.
We are saving 3,705 Rand per month.
It was so quick and easy, we should have switched sooner.
Ready to switch and save? Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Running a truck fleet business in this economy is tough. Fuel, maintenance, staff, the costs never stop. That's why I switched to My Way Business Insurance. Now I save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month. These savings go a long way to keeping my fleet on the move.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your trucks and buses. Real businesses, real savings. Call us on 0860 646464 for a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
Durban is ready. Southern Africa is coming together. This August, South Africa proudly hosts the 46th SADC Summit in Durban, bringing together leaders united by a shared vision of regional cooperation, industrialization, economic integration, and sustainable development. When we work as one, trade flourishes, investment grows, jobs are created, and families enjoy opportunities. The 46th SADC Summit, one region, one people, one vision, shared prosperity.
From yesterday's headlines to tomorrow's questions, 90 years of conversation. SAFM.
It's 16 after 7. Let's get into our big story then for the morning. This was meant to be the unit that finished the job that the Zondo Commission started, but this morning it is under investigation. We know that Advocate Andrea Johnson has resigned as the head of IDAC, asking to be released within 24 hours. 3 senior officials have since been suspended, and government has announced a 6-month reset. And Nicolette Bell well, we understand, is being lined up to take the wheel at that particular institution. Now, Sipho Ngwema was inside the Scorpions when that unit was taken apart. He's the former Scorpions member and also former NPA spokesperson. Sipho, good morning to you. Thanks for your time and for agreeing to be part of the conversation this morning. So you watched the Scorpions dismantled. Is what is happening to IDEC the same story, or are we watching something genuinely different here?
Good morning, Cathy. Salute to the team and happy 90th to SAFM. Good morning to your listeners as well. Look, my understanding when I see things unfolding with regards to IDEC, I don't think the cases are similar. Remember, what is happening to IDEC now is part of the mechanisms that we should have in terms of institutions of democracy, just to make sure that there is oversight. This is coming from an open and transparent judicial process which listened to allegations, and then they are probing those allegations. Leadership is held to account, and this is what must happen. For me, this is specific to a particular case and specific to particular individuals. Versus what happened to the Scorpions, they were general accusations or allegations. They were then handled by people who were subjects of Scorpion investigations. They were adversely affected by those investigations. Slowly they had interest and they decided to disband it. They were not transparent. It was a very controversial process, but this one, it's coming from a judicial process which is fair, which is transparent. All of us can see, can hear the allegations, can be able to see the probing of the processes that were either there or were not there or were bypassed. So this is fairly different, and I think this is what we need in order to ensure that our structures go through this process of accountability, particularly the individuals, because individuals are imperfect, and this is why we build strong institutions to ensure that those individuals are able to be replaceable and the institution is able to proceed.
One of the questions that this does leave us with is when it comes to units within the NPA and the extent to which they can be genuinely independent. Last week, the Justice Minister on Friday said on air that it was a design problem that they were dealing with. What about the design is flawed? I mean, she even talked about why even the pursuit of the NPA to seek independence out of the Justice Ministry, why that has to be treated with caution, because there would be no checks and balances effectively when it comes to the work that they are doing.
Undoubtedly, you have a number of institutions which are Chapter 9 institutions who are independent, but they report to Parliament. And Parliament is responsible for their oversight, is to ensure that everything is done, and they are relevant structures. I think there is a strong argument for the NPA to be independent, but also I think politicians or there's some who believe that the NPA should report, as it does now, to the Department of Justice. But I think what is important with all these structures, the Scorpions had a standard operating procedure. When I was there on secondment, the ID was working on standard operating procedure, which is a case review mechanism, which is a peer review mechanism, because we need to check on each other. We need to check on the cases, particularly with the model of an anti-crime unit like IDEC, because it's prosecutor-led, but to ensure that there's independence. The prosecutor that leads the investigation is not the one that takes it to court. And this is why you have to bring in an independent prosecutor. So when you go through all those checks and balances, you're able to see the loopholes, you're able to see things that should not happen, and you're able to strengthen your case. Whether or not they do have those structures or they bypass those structures, I think the Commission is dealing with that. I think that information is coming. I think the new National Director, Andy, has got a golden opportunity because he's new. Now he's able to put his own vision. He's able to deal or to lead, to bring his own leader, but also to check those structures. 6 months, I think, is good for him because he doesn't have that much time in the institution, but it is important for him to be able to put the foundation to check whether or not the structures that are there are adequate for a structure like this. I think it can be done. I think they are doing it. I think there is hope that these kinds of structures, I think I must add, Eddie, they will always be tested given the kind of cases that they were dealing with. But if they are strong, they are able then to stand the test of time and be able to pass through the turbulent times. And I think this is why institutions are far more important than the temporary custodians of these institutions, because the institutions should be enduring guardians of our democracy and ensure that once these individuals are replaced, the institution is able to proceed. And we have seen this happening in a number of institutions, and they will be able to live beyond these kinds of periods.
Sipho Ngwema there, he's the former NPA and also former Scorpions spokesperson.
From the voices that shaped our past to the conversations defining our future, SAFM celebrates 90 years.
Good morning once again. And as you've heard already, we are focusing on the future of the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption. And this remains under the spotlight following the resignation of its head, Advocate Andrea Johnson, the suspension of 3 senior investigators, and the damaging testimony before the Madlanga Commission by senior prosecutor Advocate Shamila Ramsamy. The developments have raised serious questions about IDEC's leadership, governance, prosecutorial independence, and whether the unit is adequately structured to tackle high-level corruption. To help us unpack what has transpired and where the institution may have gone wrong, and whether South Africa needs to rethink the entire anti-corruption model, we're joined by Dr. Suhaifa Bamji, the discipline head of public school at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, a leading criminal justice scholar, and a recognized voice on prosecutorial accountability, criminal justice reform, and social justice in South Africa. Dr. Bamji, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tim. And let me say, what an opportunity this is. I would never have thought in my lifetime that I'd be speaking with you. But thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. And again, who would have thought that I will be part of the celebrations of SAFM's 90th anniversary? So a lot for us to celebrate either way, as well as with the SAFM listeners this morning. Now, I know that the appearance at the Madlanga Commission by the head of IDEC was full of drama and a lot of stuff that came out of there, leading to where we are now, where we are speculating about the future of IDEC. Is it too early for us to be speculating on what needs to happen to IDEC, or should we just hang back a little bit and see what comes out of the Madlanga Commission hearings?
That's a great way to start, Tim. Look, I don't think we should hold the horses on thinking how we would reimagine or what needs to be done with IDEC to make it what it was envisaged or hoped to be. And I think we see that also with the minister's statement and Andy Matibi coming forward and taking action now. And we've seen that as a very positive for the Madlanga Commission as a whole. It's not as if with other commissions that have happened in the past where it waits, or organizations and government institutions wait for the entire commission to wrap up its work and then only determine whether they're taking action. We are seeing action in real time. And that's very, very positive for us as a nation and for trying to restore justice in the criminal justice, trust in the criminal justice system. So from that perspective, that's very, very positive. So I'm on the bandwagon with the minister and with Andy Matibi about let's do something now and let's not wait. And I think Andy Matibi and the minister have both sort of got their finger on the pulse of what needs to be done. And certainly it's about the leadership from within the IDEC, first of all, not just the leadership, then also the players in the IDEC. So, and they're looking at that full skills audit as well, and then moving forward and upwards, legislative reform. How do we put in checks and balances? How do we create accountability and transparency for institutions like IDEC?
But IDEC is but one of the many institutions that we have in the criminal justice system, right? And it's got a particular purpose for it to have been established in the first instance. Now, to tinker with it, to try and reformat it, to change it, whilst leaving the other stacks within the justice system, is that fair? For instance, there's not much that's happened to the police. There's not much that's happening in the general prosecution area. There's not much that's happening in the context of the judiciary. And so it goes. But then we isolate IDEC and say, no, this one has got to be changed and has got to be improved one way or another. Is that fair? Is it reasonable? Is it going to lead to any improvements?
I think it will. And I think realistically about how do you get something fixed, or how do you overhaul, and now here we're talking about a whole system, because you're quite right, Tim. We're looking at a change of an entire system, not just parts of a system, but it has to begin with parts of a system. And why IDEC is at this stage a good place to begin is because of what is being unearthed about what's going on in IDEC. And not just IDEC itself. Remember, we're talking about connectivities to different parts within the system. Within the testimony that has come out from IDEC, and even within the testimony that's come out from the Nkabinde inquiry, we are seeing that rot, those bad links, are linking from between IDEC and the police services, between IDEC and the judiciary. So if we start in one place, the vision is that it would have ripple effects, and that clean out, that transformation, that reinvigoration or rejuvenation, if you will translate outwards and forwards. Because at this stage, what you're looking at is accountability from within IDEC and for IDEC, transparency. But those that are being held to account would then also be forced, reasonably or logically, to hold those lower in the chain or feeding into that chain. No one would reasonably want to take all of the accountability when they can say, well, look, lower down in the chain, or the other information bearers, handlers, investigators caused X, Y, and Z situations. So if we think of it from that frame, we've got to start from the microcosm, which in this case is the reset, is the word they're using. The reset of IDEC will have that full effect.
Very briefly from your side, who should take responsibility for reformatting, reorganizing IDEC?
Well, very simply, the answer is that IDEC is a creature or a child of the National Prosecuting Authority. It falls to the National Prosecuting Authority to do this, to bring its children, its role players into order. But it goes hand in hand also with Parliament, as far as enabling legislation, or rather to reform with certain parts of the existing legislation, so that there can be this oversight. I mean, one of the questions that was asked to SIPO, about, do we need a complete overhaul and just scrap it and start all over again? And I think he's right. I don't think it's about scrapping the whole thing and starting all over again. It is about being able to fix what can be fixed in a focused way, but through the support of Parliament. So again, you will need political will, political vigor, and I think the voices of the public here are going to be very, very strong. I think the oversight part and the accountability part of this is going to become even more critical. We'll remember that when the minister and Andy Matibi were addressing the media, one of the questions to the minister was, has the ministry failed? Has the ministry failed? How is it that all of these sorts of things have been happening, not just in IDEC, but the NPA, and nothing was done? We must ask, what sorts of reports were Shamila Batoy making to Parliament at that stage? Because that's where the reporting goes to. Were there no questions? So hopefully that will be tightened up and interrogated much more moving forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zuhaifa Bamji, the Discipline Head of Public Law at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Thank you very much.
And I think, Bratim, one of the things that you and I will have the opportunity of exploring after 8 o'clock is just how much of the national conversation has changed or even stayed the same, especially when it comes to these institutions that South Africans rely on so much to hold people in power accountable, but the interference that unfortunately we see persistently, at least if we track the pattern across different parts of our society. So it's a co-hosting dual broadcast situation here in studio as we celebrate 90 years of SAFM. We're bringing you the voices of this station, and we're kicking it off today with Tim Modise. All right, it's time for your latest news headlines. Ondela Mbana standing by. Ondela, good morning.
Thank you, Cathy, and a very good morning. On the news headlines, Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Tlhabisa says publishing the proclamation of the local government elections in the Government Gazette will allow the IEC to set the opening and closing dates for parties to submit their candidate lists. The third state witness in the attempted murder trial of Vusimuzi Cathy Mohlahlana and 4 others is expected to continue to be cross-examined today at the High Court in Johannesburg. And the Western Cape High Court will today hear a legal challenge brought by AfriForum, the Institute of Race Relations and the DA against the Expropriation Act. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Joburg. First up, heading north, if you like, from the south, the N1 coming out of Soweto. Big queues up towards the Maresburg area this morning. Also, the Mike 1, it's a busy back-to-work Monday from Boysons. Traffic all the way through to Grayston Drive up in Sandton. The N1 again from Bayers Nordia round to Ravonia, looking fairly heavy as well. The N14, the Krugersdorp Highway from the Pretoria West exit up to the M1 Bruckfontein. That's a heavy backlog of traffic to work through. Crash on Paul Kruger coming into Pretoria CBD at Capital Park from Mayville. That's all badly backed up. There's also no traffic lights to come out of Pretoria North, Ruckle de Beer, Paul Kruger down to Vanderboom Junction, so some extra delays on that run through as well. Durban, a crash on the M4 near Virginia Airport. It's heavy leaving Mhlanga. It's pretty heavy going towards Mhlanga from Blue Lagoon side as well. M13 joining from Old Maid at Hillcrest down towards Topper Fields Hill, very busy, and a lot of traffic coming up from Toti in the south coast this morning. On your way to Prospect and very slowly, perhaps slower than you'd like. Cape Town, extreme mist right across the city and the region. Really is heavy. Big bank of it this morning. That plus back to work Monday volumes. It's a high volume day. You can hardly see where you're going. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. There is a crash on the M5 North just past the N2. So coming through from Parkwood and Southfield. That's extra heavy on the M5. And no lights. Jake Scoville, the M7 at R300. Both of those routes queuing out of Mitchell's Plain. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
All right, Zai Khan is in studio with the sport. So we're talking about Rassie Erasmus, right? And just the position of the squad heading to Argentina. Tim, are you a big rugby fan?
Well, again, thanks to Rassie Erasmus, yes, I have been converted to rugby now because of the excellent work that he's done there. Not only are they winning, but I think it demonstrates South Africa's character. And to my mind, when you watch rugby and you watch what they get up to and how Rassie has organized everything and the individuals in the team that he has improved, it gives me a sense that is the kind of thing you can do in the broader society. So he remains my hero. So I follow Springbok rugby precisely because of Rassie Erasmus.
Wow, geez. I mean, that is some serious standing ovation for Rassie.
Tell Rassie you must take this seriously, right?
Yes, Tim, I think Rassie believes compliments are important, but you know what? They don't win test matches, but we'll take it. Good scrums, good defense, and some good compliments there from one legend to another. Tim Modise there weighing in, but we'll go now to the Springbok coach himself, Rassie Erasmus, insisting his side firmly on course for Saturday's Rugby Championship clash against Argentina, despite a demanding travel schedule and a split squad.
This stage we all locked in for Argentina next week, so there will be a group, as we said, that will stay behind and will start focusing on them, because you can take only so many guys to Argentina. It's only for a week and we're only playing one match there. So I had a brief look at it, but definitely haven't studied it enough. And yeah, to be honest, we didn't watch a lot of Super Rugby. But it sounds like everybody's really excited about the squad, and obviously the way they played in the first 3 games is really impressive, and we all know it's going to be a tough one, but we play Argentina first, so that's our first goal now.
Let's go to Banyana. Their hopes of reaching the Women's Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinals remains alive after a spirited second-half comeback, earning South Africa that 2-2 draw against Ivory Coast. Here's midfielder Mohlahlana says the team still believes qualification is within reach.
One thing about tough times is that they will bring you guys together, and I think we needed that as Banyana. But one thing about this rough patch that we've been through, nobody has ever questioned our ability to actually do it. So I think the silver lining is that it has brought us together, and everybody has seen what we're able to do when we're together. Fortunately for us in our group, we have a similar type of profile in terms of the games that we're playing. We know it's going to be physical, we know it's going to be transitional football.
And finally, tennis. The Filipina rising star Alexandra Ayala is through to the biggest final of her career, upsetting Naomi Osaka at the Washington Open. The 21-year-old had a 6-4, 6-2 victory to book her place in the final. And that's your sport for now. We will be game, set and match for more Top of the Hour. I'm Zaika.
The Market Brief with Ndauleng Lechela on SAfm.
Good morning, Ntauleng. So we're seeing the Reserve Bank treading quite carefully despite the enormous success internationally on AI and crypto.
That's right, Cathy. The SARB, treading with caution when it comes to AI, warning that the technology could also expose the financial system to new cyber risks. Now, speaking at the bank's AGM, Governor Lesetja Kganyago said regulators face the challenge of encouraging innovation without compromising financial stability. He also defended the bank's cautious approach to crypto assets, arguing they should not become a loophole for illicit financial flows or a way to sidestep regulations. Now, the warning also suggests regulators will be paying much closer attention as AI and digital assets become a bigger part of the financial system. Moving over to company news, Fourways Mall is showing further signs of recovery, helping owner Accelerate Property Fund strengthen its finances. Now, vacancies at the shopping center have fallen below 10%, supported by stronger leasing activity and more than 1 million monthly visitors. The JSE-listed property fund also cut almost 800 million rand of debt through asset sales, easing pressure on its balance sheet. But despite the progress, shareholders will have to wait longer for a dividend, with management saying payouts will only resume once debt is reduced further. Moving over to equity markets, the focus remains on corporate earnings and renewed talks between the US and Iran. The latter is, of course, pushing oil prices lower, with Brent crude slipping to around $83 a barrel this morning. That's giving Wall Street futures a lift ahead of the open. The mood is more cautious in Asia, though, where sell-off in chip makers has left markets mixed. That could translate into a subdued start for the JSE when trade gets underway at 9 a.m. Locally, investors will also be watching new vehicle sales and manufacturing data. Ahead of that, the rand is steady at 16.47 to the dollar, 22.19 to the pound, and 18.99 to the euro. That's your market update. Let's head back to Cathy for the business tip of the day.
Thanks, Ntauleng. The FNB business tip of the day is a focus on Women's Month. Now, Women's Month is an opportunity to celebrate the women who are building businesses, creating opportunities, and making a meaningful impact in their communities. Behind every successful business is a story of resilience, determination, and a willingness to keep learning and growing. At FNB, we believe these stories deserve to be celebrated because they inspire others to pursue their ambitions and realize what is possible through passion, perseverance, and hard work. This week, we'll be profiling Simpiwe Mota, founder and owner of Lash and Dash, and an F&B business customer whose entrepreneurial journey is a powerful example of turning passion into purpose. This week, ask yourself, what inspired you to start your business and what keeps you motivated to keep growing? We'll share more of Simpiwe's entrepreneurial journey on the Wednesday F&B business interview.
Important message to all social grants beneficiaries. Did you know that SASSA verifies beneficiaries monthly? Did you receive a message to have your grant reviewed or to undergo eLife certification? Do not be scared. Just comply. For the month of August, older persons grant beneficiaries will be paid on Tuesday the 4th, disability grants on Wednesday the 5th, and children's grants on Thursday the 6th. If you do not get your grant on these dates, worry not. Do not rush to the SASSA office. Wait until Friday the 7th of August. Should you receive your grant on the 7th of August, note that your grant is under review and you need to visit your nearest SASSA office in August to conduct a review or life certification. This message is brought to you by SASSA. Hashtag SASSA Cares.
Running a small business means every rand counts. Thanks to My Way Business Insurance, I save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month for my bakkies and tools of trade. Now, I get to save some extra cash for my business and focus on giving my clients world-class service.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your bakkies and tools of trade. Real businesses, real savings. Call us on 0860 646464 for a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
Deciding to ignore the DIY instructions may only cost you a few hours, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings a year. With Outsurance, 48-year-old Adam saves an unbelievable 1,803 Rand a month on his 2020 Audi Q3. Switch to Outsurance. You could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Reality check on the National Briefing.
You're still listening to the National Briefing as we mark 90 years of SAFM. Brad Tim is still in studio with me. We're getting into our reality check this morning. And remember, this segment really existing to help us pause, reflect, and to think seriously about the state of South Africa, not just what is happening, but why it's happening, what it's costing us, and what we can do to change it. It's really about saying what are the practical steps that we can take to build the South Africa that we want. Our contributor for this week is a prominent South African anti-apartheid struggle veteran, former civil servant, and conservation pioneer who played a vital role in transforming South Africa's public and environmental sectors. Now, he wants us to keep the intro short, but that's, of course, many South Africans will already know who he is. Mavuso Msimang. He wants to be known as a retired civil servant and former freedom fighter. Mr. Msimang, you can never be a former freedom fighter. Good morning to you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I respect and have the greatest admiration for your listeners, but also allow me very quickly to impinge on my time by saying anybody who doesn't know Tim Modise and Rassi Erasmus, perhaps we should ask March on March to get them out of South Africa.
Good morning, Tate Msimang.
Hey, Tim, how is it, man?
I'm good, and great to hear you on the airwaves as well as read your articles in the newspapers and still leading the charge in trying to get us to think straight in our society. We appreciate your work.
Thank you very much.
And this week, you've chosen a theme of migration. Of course, it's a hot topic in South Africa currently, but today you want to start us off looking into the historical context. Over to you, Mr. Msima.
Thank you very, very much. I will really ask your listeners to give me a little bit of time. I want to foreground the discussion of these contentious issues about migration, legal and illegal, documented, undocumented, by doing a review of the history of immigration into our country, the country we call South Africa today. So I'm acutely aware of the current strong interest screening concerning the presence of, hey gosh, I'm sorry, I'm hearing a reflection of mine.
Yes, Mr. Msima, we're also getting it on our side. And
Yeah.
do you have your radio on anywhere, or are you using your headsets in this
Oh,
conversation? Because
got
that
you, got
is
you,
likely
got
giving
you.
the feedback.
Got you, thank you very much. Yeah. I am so sorry. My clever wife has just come in to show me this. Sorry, so I was saying one is acutely aware of the current strong interest concerning the presence of mostly African immigrants in the country who are here, as I said, legally and illegally. I intend to foreground this discussion, which we'll get to on Wednesday already, maybe even tomorrow, by giving us a snap overview of the history of migration into South Africa. That goes back to the 3rd century. We're in the 21st century now. So there was immigration by the Bantu-speaking people who arrived here as early as the 3rd century. They came from Central Africa, from West Africa, in a process that continued until the 17th century. They came in 2 streams. The western stream of migrants traveled through present-day Angola and Namibia and Botswana and eventually reached the Northern Cape and the western provinces. The Eastern Stream groups moved from the Great Lakes of East Africa, heading south towards Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Malawi, and they settled along the fertile eastern coast and highlands of South Africa. So the Bantu speakers were farmers. They also brought iron-working tools as well as weapons. The tools gave them a major advantage over the local Stone Age people, the Khoi and the San, who really have the incontestable bragging rights to the claim that they were the first peoples in South Africa. The accepted definition of indigenous people of South Africa includes the Khoi and the San, as well as the Bantu-speaking African people, such as Xhosa, Zulu, Sotho, Tswana, all of us. So the Bantu speakers introduced crop cultivation, and they used millet and sorghum, and cattle herding. They shifted local economies from hunting to farming. They did not just displace the indigenous Khoi and San, they assimilated them, adopting the click sounds into Bantu languages like Xhosa and Zulu. They also integrated with the indigenous San and Khoi people. You only need to look at Madiba's facial features and those of many, many lesser-known South Africans to confirm that. The next lot of immigrants came from Europe, the Dutch, the Belgians, the Germans, and a century plus later, in 1975, the British. When the Dutch and the Huguenots who came with Jan van Riebeeck in a merchant ship in 1652, when they dropped anchor in Cape Town, their aim was to set up a revitalizing system, a refreshment system on their way to the east. They were attracted by climatic conditions in the place where they arrived, and they decided to establish the first permanent European settlement in South Africa. That marked the beginning of the colonial era. The British, who came specifically on a colonial expedition, overpowered the Dutch and the indigenous people who fought for over 100 years to resist this, and they ran the Cape Colony. The defeated Boers went further north, where they established Boer republics, on land they dispossessed from natives. So the next migration influx, you will tell me when to stop, I'll continue quickly, resulted from the discovery of diamonds in 1867 and gold a decade later, which triggered a massive mineral revolution that created South Africa's strict migrant labor system. The heavy colonial taxes that forced African men out of rural areas caused them to go and work for cash. Mines confined workers to single-sex, high-security barracks to control movement and prevent theft. We still have the features, the relics of those things around Johannesburg today. So by 1899, nearly 97,000 foreign workers from neighboring Southern Africa had come to South Africa working in the mines. There were passed laws strictly imposed by the governments to control the influx of legally mandated workers to return home when contracts ended. Millions of men spent months at mines, leaving families behind in rural areas. There was absolutely no pathway available for citizenship. The local African workers came from what we call today Southern Africa, South Africa, Lesotho, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, etc. I need to mention very quickly also that another influx of people who came into South Africa was over 60,000 Chinese laborers who arrived between 1904 and 1910 to solve post-war shortages in the country. We don't have time to unpack all of those things. Then also you had Indian indentured laborers. Over 150,000 of them arrived in Natal to work on sugarcane plantations, and they were followed by traders, so-called passenger Indians, shortly thereafter. By 1899, again, you had 97,000 foreign workers from neighboring. Sorry, I'm repeating that. So the regional African migration under apartheid, that's 1948 to 1994, the apartheid state relied on a two-gate policy, actively recruiting cheap, disposable male labor from the neighboring countries I've mentioned. ITEPA, the Employment Bureau of Africa, which was called ITEPA, recruited millions now from Lesotho, Mozambique, Malawi, Botswana. The apartheid laws, its precocity was such that the workers were treated as temporary and foreign visitors, and they were not, I repeat, allowed citizenship. So then you come to the post-1994 democracy era and its trends. Post-apartheid, the very advent of democracy in South Africa led to massive attractions by people other than miners and agricultural workers into South Africa.
Mr. Msimang, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause you there for today and say
Yes.
to be continued, because you've started there with that history, and that perhaps can become an important point of reflection for us as we conclude the reality check for today. Mavuso Msimang will be back with us tomorrow. He's our contributor for the week, where he will continue building on the foundation that he has set for us. I'm looking at the time, and we absolutely can't afford to go any longer than we have with it. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into our 8 o'clock news update.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion, because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
EFC is live this Thursday, fresh off a championship win.
He was willing to give everything for this title tonight.
Cape Town's Adrian Sanchez puts his interim belt on the line against the man determined to fulfill his family's legacy, Durban's Bradley Swanepoel. Live this Thursday from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Your business needs that new heavy-duty laser printer, but do you have the cash to fund it? Before you compromise on the core items your business needs, have you looked at saving on your business insurance? Switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium for educational institutes, law firms, real estate agencies, computer services, and all other businesses. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's and information online.
Call SAFM now on 086 000 2032.
All right, you're still listening to the national briefing and our special broadcast continues. But Tim Modise in studio with me. We're bringing the voices of SAFM on air on this very special month. Yeah, I see some of you already wanting to unpack what Dr. Msimang has said. Can we just hold off today on the reflection so far? Let's allow him a chance to finish tomorrow. Before we come with a lot of the opinions, either agreeing, disagreeing, let's allow him to finish the point because I think today he's just really set a foundation. All right, Bratim, we're going to go to the phone lines. I see we've got Mfuneko in eThekwini. Mfuneko, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cathy.
Good morning, Mfuneko.
Good morning to the South African SA listeners out there.
Okay. What about Bratim?
Good morning to Tim. Morning to Tim.
Hi,
good
Mfuneko.
morning
Good morning
to. Good morning, sir. Good
Mfuneko,
morning,
please switch off your radio. Please switch off your radio.
I think it's off now.
Yes. What do you want to talk about?
Is it off? Okay, let me switch off the car. I'm on the road. Okay. Yes, this is Mfuneko. I wanted to say something, but before I can say that something, I want to say happy 90th birthday to SAFM.
All right, Mfuneko, thanks for the birthday wishes. Get into it. Go for it.
First of all, Cathy, I wanted to say something on the IDEC. First and foremost, I forwarded one article regarding IDEC, and I've been calling it IDEC is the wolf in a sheepskin. That was my description because of what has been transpired within the criminal justice system involving the IDEC. So my argument is IDEC services cannot allowed to continue under the umbrella of IDEC because of what has been transpired within the Madlanga Commission. In fact, prior that, the arrest of Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo and others regarding the employment of Brigadier General Dineo Mukwele was very questionable from the onset. Now, the reason why I describe this, based on my analysis, continued analysis after that incident, I realized that the reflection of the IDEC is not appearing pure as an entity that is fighting criminality, that is helping out South African police service, because this is what you call it, friendly force with the SAPS.
Okay.
But looking at certain activities that IDEC did,
okay,
I concluded that this is the element or the entity that is working opposite to that of the South African police services.
That is Mfuneko out in eThekwini. We'll give more time for your calls in the 8 o'clock hour. For now, it's time to head on over to the news desk with Ondela. Ondela, good morning.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, Hlabisa to proclaim the elections on Friday and 35 people killed in a drone strike by the Sudanese army. For SAfm News, I am Ondelambana and a very good morning. On election news, Cooperative Governance Minister Velengosidi Hlabisa says publishing the proclamation of the local government elections in the Government Gazette will allow the IEC to set the opening and closing dates for parties to submit their candidate lists. Hlabisa says he will proclaim the elections on Friday. Hlabisa says the online voter registration portal will remain operational to allow eligible citizens to register and update their details until the proclamation.
We have done all necessary work with IEC as I chair the Interministerial Committee on Local Government Election, and a Government Gazette is ready. We've booked the space on Friday, the 7th of August. I will officially gazette the 4th of November as the election date for local government elections, and the voters' roll will close midnight on that day.
The third state witness in the attempted murder trial of Vusumuzi Cathy Mohlahlana and 4 others is expected to continue to be cross-examined today at the High Court in Johannesburg. Captain Phimisa Khubela has been testifying in the trial within a trial detailing the sequence of events that occurred on the day Musa Kekana was arrested following the murder of Vereeniging engineer Armand Swart in April 2024. The alleged gunmen, Mohlahlana, his wife Tsakani Tiego Mabusela and Ntabise Nzama are facing a string of charges in connection with the failed assassinations of businessman Josie Banyoni, socialite Debucho Tobejane, and music producer Sienke Mokubong. On Friday, Sokhumela, speaking through an interpreter, told the court that Kekana was the prime suspect in Swart's murder.
We are arresting them for the murder that transpired in Vereeniging. Charge ya dithunya e tsene ka morago ge di kreiwa ko gare ga I-20 ko house number 34.
The firearm charge then came out later when the firearms
ga di kreiga ko ntlong.
When the firearms were discovered in the house.
The Western Cape High Court will today hear a legal challenge brought by AfriForum, the Institute of Race Relations, and the DA against the Expropriation Act. President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Expropriation Act in January 2025. The EFF and the Land Reform and Rural Development Minister Mzwanele Nyonzo have applied to be respondents as well. Marisa Whitehead reports.
AfriForum wants the court to declare certain sections of the Expropriation Act unconstitutional, which among other things enables expropriation without compensation. AfriForum has cited President Ramaphosa, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, the National Assembly Speaker, and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces as respondents in the matter. The DA wants the act to be declared unconstitutional. The party alleges that the act was passed through a defective parliamentary process and says key provisions are vague, contradictory and incompatible with the constitutional protection of property. Marisa Whitehead, SABC News.
The South African National Park says aircraft will be dispatched this morning to assist with the vegetation fire that broke out above Kloofneck Corner in Tafelberg Road in Cape Town yesterday. SANParks rangers and traffic officials were deployed to assist with the safe evacuation of visitors and manage traffic in the area. Crews are still on the scene. The fire has crept close to the lower cable station, but no visitors were impacted as the Table Mountain aerial cableway is closed for annual maintenance. The Cableway's managing director Mohita Parker says staff were on high alert.
And very well supported by the City of Cape Town's fire department, SANParks' volunteer fire services, and of course the management in the fire offices of the City of Cape Town. Our staff were incredible in managing the property.
A Sudanese human rights group says 35 people have been killed in a drone strike by the Sudanese army on a traditional court session in the western Darfur region. Dozens more were reported injured. The Emergency Lawyers Group, which monitors violence against civilians, said the attack occurred in a village controlled by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. Recapping the top story, Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says publishing the proclamation of the local government elections in the Government Gazette will allow the IEC to set the opening and closing dates for parties to submit their candidate lists. I'm Ondalambana for SAFM News Headlines at 8:30.
OUTsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Deciding to ignore the DIY instructions may only cost you a few hours, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings a year. With OUTsurance, 48-year-old Adam saves an unbelievable 1,803 Rand a month in his 2020 Audi Q3. Switch to OUTsurance, you could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SAFM Sports Headlines, Team South Africa wrapping up its Commonwealth Games campaign with 28 medals in Glasgow. And in soccer, Orlando Pirates begin their quest for a record 5th straight MTN8 title. We'll find out more at around 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We started Pretoria with a very heavy Paul Kruger this morning. Mayville into Capital Park, an earlier crash in that Capital Park area, the reason for the backlog. N14, Pretoria bound, Krugersdorp Highway from the R55 Pretoria West exit up to the M1 Brockfontein. That's super heavy this morning. The bike one from Boyson through to Sandton, all the way busy. The N1 queuing out of Soweto to Maresburg, and then Beyers Nordia around to Rivonia. Heavy. Also Allendale Road, leaving Tembisa. Big queues there this morning. Traffic lights are massive and not working, but there might be something else in your way on your way towards Midrand. South of Mpangeli and Richards Bay, in fact, just south of eSeKoweni, the N2 going southbound is closed. It's a cash in transit heist. It's unfolding in that area. So the N2 southbound, you will be queuing into that eSeKoweni exit and facing some diversions. Northbound traffic still moving. The N2 between between Amanzimtoti and Prospect, and on your way towards the M4 split is heavy. The M4 Ruthfirst Highway, other side of Durban, a crash near Virginia Airport with delays both ways. Southbound from Umhlanga, northbound from Blue Lagoon, staying jam-packed. Cape Town, M5 under pressure from Parkwood Southfield all the way through to the M1 Kuberg interchange this morning. M3 Constantia through to Hospital Bend. R300 Stellenbosch Arterial to Old Paarl Road, and the N7 South coming to Cape Town, a single lane section around that Morningstar area, causing some delays as you approach the Dunoon area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Briefing on SAFM. Clarity, context and conversation. This is where the day begins with Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
It's 11 after 8 o'clock. You're tuned into the National Briefing. I'm Cathy Mohlahlana. A warm welcome if you've just tuned in. As always, it's a pleasure to have you with us on the show. We're with you until 9 a.m. So today we're starting off what is a series of special broadcasts in honor of SAFM turning 90 years on. And what are we doing exactly? Well, we're not only co-hosting, but I would say that we're trying to hand the microphone back to the voices of SAFM. I tried that this morning because I thought I'd give myself half the day off, and Brad Tim was having none of it. He was like, no, I will absolutely not be running the show, Cathy. But he is, of course, one of the voices that we're so honored to have as an SAFM voice in studio with me. And in a moment, we're going to be getting into some questions and reflections on his journey. And then later on in the hour on Built-in Mzansi, we're going to be meeting a woman who looked out at the wreckage, right, of the KwaZulu-Natal floods and saw fuel. It's a story we're supposed to bring on Friday, but she'll be joining us today as we wrap up the hour. So plenty more for you to look forward to. As always, we would like to hear from you. In fact, the conversation belongs to you on 086 000 2032 on the WhatsApp voice note line. Send those WhatsApp voice notes and text messages to 0614 104 107. So, Brad Tim, I must say, you're not sounding rusty at all. Hey, you're sounding like you could still do this. I don't know. How do you feel?
Well, I think I can still do it.
I think so too. I absolutely think so. I'm getting ideas, Brad Tim. I'm getting ideas.
All right. What sort of ideas?
We're going to talk about that some more this hour.
Yeah, sure. Looking forward to that.
Brad Tim Modise in studio with us. For now, we're going to take a quick break and we're back with more.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
You wouldn't pay premium coffee prices for a regular cup of coffee, so why overpay to insure your older car? Outsurance Essential Car Insurance covers older cars for much less. 68-year-old John pays only 391 Rand a month for his 2014 Chevrolet Sonic, gets claims paid in cash, and chooses his own panel beater. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 150,000 Rand. SMS car to 43185. That's car to 43185. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAfmRadio.
So you tuned into SAFM, and this hour we're focusing on 90 years of SAFM, and it's a story that you cannot tell honestly without Brad Tim Modise. He came into broadcasting in 1980. Mm-hmm. Introduced public education talk to South Africa. That was in 1988. And then carried this country through some of the most dangerous conversations that it has ever had, from apartheid to democracy. All of that happening live on air, no script, no map. He hosted the debates that led into 1994. And I mean, this is really one of the big ones. He sat on the panel of the Mandela de Klerk debate that was watched by about 800 million people across the world. He has interviewed every South African president since 1990. What a record that this broadcaster has. And won, of course, numerous accolades and awards alongside that. And he anchored AM Live, which was the name of this show. It's gone through many iterations, but to what we today call the National Briefing. And at this hour, he would be hosting the After 8 debate, not only in this very building, but I understand, Bratim, in this very studio that we are in this morning. So what does it feel like being back behind the microphone on SAFM today?
It's been quite a while since I have been in this studio, but it's great to be back in the studio, and it brings back a lot of memories. I was just trying to go through the types of things we did here, the shows we introduced, the different relationships we have. For instance, in the afternoon, PM Live, we worked with the BBC. We brought the BBC here, and we were broadcasting both on SAFM and on the BBC World Services as an example. And it came from here with Ophebia Quist-Acton as an example. And when I also did the talk show in the morning, taking over from Will Bernard, when he presented Talk at Will, and I came in and I did the Tim Modise show on SAFM from that time to midday. You know, South Africa was going through change politically, but also cultural change, because prior to the station being called SAFM, it was called Radio South Africa. And before then, it was called the English Service. And it was exclusively then for English-speaking white South Africans. Mm-hmm. So when we came in, the whole idea was that this station is for all of South Africa, including black South Africans of different races and cultural persuasions. So to be in that era, where on one hand you're bringing your own perspectives, lived life experiences from a black perspective, so to speak, into an established white audience that was not familiar with that. You can imagine the tussles we went through with some of the listeners. But overall, I mean, the colleagues were superb. They were fantastic people. It was great. It was great to be part of change in that sense.
I'm sitting and I'm thinking about your journey in 2026. In many ways, you were not only part of telling that story, right, as it unfolded, but you have inevitably become part of that story, become part of that process of history making. Does it ever feel like a lot has happened in what probably sometimes feels like a short space of time to you?
I look at it this way. I mean, there was a time before 1990, for instance. You know, there was a different South Africa then. And sometimes I think we forget. It was a very separated South Africa. We were living as separate people, and in some instances not even having the common consciousness of our citizenship, right? So coming from that era where we grew up looking forward to change, coming about democracy, etc., and without knowing whether it will happen or not, or the form or shape of that democracy. When it happened, it was, to me personally, it was like a break from one thing into the other, completely new story. We grew up hearing about people like Nelson Mandela, for instance, who was still incarcerated on Robben Island, Bo Walter Sisulu, Govan Beki, Ahmed Kathrala, and so on. And then suddenly things change, they get released and they become real people. When you grew up not even knowing their images, not seeing their pictures. And then when they're out, you have a lot of violence going on in Gauteng, in particular, the Eastern Thokoza hostels, in the Vaal, Bipatong massacres, and so it goes. And then you have people coming from exile, Chris Hani, Thabo Mbeki, and so on, and you interact with them. It's like a whirlwind of change. You know, things are happening, and they're happening pretty fast, and we're headed towards a change that we are only imagining then, and we could not tell what it was, what form it was going to take, and to see it take shape over time and participate in that process, I think is personally a privilege and an honor to have been part of that story.
What is the weight that you had to grapple with as an individual? Because you are right there in the middle of it, having to lead conversations. And as I said, being part of the story. Madiba not only moves from somebody whose face you don't see, you see him, but now you actually are interacting with him. You have to interview him, right?
Yes.
You have to hold the fort when it comes to the communication with the public.
Well, when you are young, it's very exciting. I think it would be exciting even now. So I saw all of these things as exciting. I was actually very lucky, I would say, because prior to that, I worked with people like Dr. Agri Cluster, and I always remember this, with his nation-building projects. And they happened in the late 80s, those types of projects, which then through the Sowetan and Dr. Agri Cluster, I was exposed to people in leadership positions before 1990 and understood how, for lack of a word, agendas are set. When you're working towards something that is important, that's big, that this is how it's communicated, this is how it's done, and so on. So that when change happened, I understood that it was a big moment of huge responsibility. And actually, the key thing that motivated me then was the awareness that the leaders themselves did not know who their supporters were, because they had been away. Those were in exile and others were in prison. And these were young people. Most of them are products of the 1976 unrest and uprising, right? And then that is one side. On the other side, the legend of the political or liberation movements, they were known, but nobody knew what they stood for, really. So I saw the work that we do as an opportunity, a platform of sorts, to bring the potential supporters, followers, and those who were hungry for change, to connect them with the leaders who had their own ideas of where they wanted to take the country. So it became an opportunity for the two sides to meet and interact, particularly during the time of the negotiations at the World Trade Center. Because, to put it frankly, we knew there were negotiations, but we did not know what the negotiations were all about. It's one thing to talk about voting, but it's another to talk about voting for what? What happens when you vote? What happens when you bring about the change? What is parliament for a majority of people? How do we hold leaders accountable? And so it goes. And the interesting part is that there were, I think, more than 13 groups that were talking at the World Trade Center, and they were not necessarily all on the same page. I remember something that was mooted in 1991, I think, and when the ANC had its first conference in the country, in Durban, there was talk of the Patriotic Front. This is something that was pushed more by the PAC and also supported by Azapo, but ultimately it never happened. That it was trying to model what happened in Zimbabwe. So at the talks, you had the government of the day, the National Party. You had the homeland governments. You had the IFP. So there were differing opinions, tensions, backdrop, violence. At the same time, that's, to me, why it was very important that we had the conversations, because what else would we do? Either we just bulldoze our views through violence, or we engage, and then if you are an average South African like myself, then you form an opinion. You get a sense of who is making sense for you at that time. So it was great to be part of that. I was privileged.
How do you think the way in which we have conversations has changed, if at all, over the last, I don't even want to say 30 years, Bratim, because I feel like that will be limiting you. But during the time that you have been on this platform, and during the time that we've watched this evolution and change in our society?
I think there was a time when we had, even if we differed, but we had a common interest of making sure that whatever political views and support and activism involvement was for the benefit of the broader society, for South Africa, right? We had an idea that we want to create a country and a society with a particular character and consciousness. My sense is that in recent times we actually are pursuing more issues according to self-interest. That's what seems to be happening now, and sometimes, whether we are aware or not, in the media, we also are informed by biases that go with our political preferences as well as economic interests. So it's slightly different, because then economic interests were not necessarily, particularly for self, were not the issue. The bigger ideas of what kind of South Africa do we want to build was more the idea. I'll give you an example. I mean, the Thabo Mbeki speech, the President Mbeki speech, when he was deputy president of I'm an African, resonated well then. He could talk in the manner that he did, but I doubt that it would fly today, that speech. It would not necessarily be received the same way it was at that time, as an example. And the debate that he introduced of South Africa, a country of two nations, which became a big topical issue then. And the idea behind that topic was, how do you bring the two nations, broadly speaking, merge them into one and create a common South African view and experience? So I don't know. I think we've deviated somewhat away from that.
Sure, that is such a important reflection point, and I'm going to keep that with me for some time, really. I want us to go to the phone lines, but Tim, bring in some of our listeners this morning. I'll start off this round in the Eastern Cape. Tando, good morning.
Morning, Kat. Hey, Tim, how you doing, man?
I'm all right, man. How are you, Tando?
I can imagine you're going to bring in John Pellman too, and then who else is going to come in? But I would like to suggest that, you did something wonderful one time. You brought in Sig and the other guy. It was on the 29th floor of the SABC. You brought them together, and I hope you're going to bring the two mics, the one from Cape Town and the Rasta man, and then also Uncle Thingy, the truck driver. I hope you're going to bring all those voices, because I tell you, there's nothing that beats listening to those guys who besides of you guys, of course, as the anchors, but nothing beats, the South African beat, or to listen to them, because they always spot on, and of course, they don't agree, but they certainly, make for interesting listening.
Okay.
Yeah. So in that sense, I'm thoroughly enjoying what you guys are doing.
Wonderful, Tando. Thanks for that feedback. Hassan, you're in Auckland Park. Hassan Logat, good morning.
Happy birthday to you all. I'm not saying you're 90 years old, both of you. And love to have Tim back. Tim helped to cut our teeth. We engaged with Tim very strongly. He had one of the amazing things that Tim did. He turned us into a university for ordinary people, where intellectuals and others could debate, and they could say, "I heard you this morning arguing this." Abdul from Mayfair, many of them are late. Once we had an annual gathering of listeners. We had an annual gathering, and Tim had the courage to, not the fear, he had the courage to bring us together. There was a guy with a military suit from Free State.
Eddie.
So I'm glad to have known Tim both as a host and later as a friend. He does karate, he loves his music, he's an autodidact, a man who he doesn't say he doesn't know, he teaches himself and he educates us in the process. So lovely to have you guys, Cathy. I think you're following in his steps very ably, Cathy.
Well, Hassan, thank you very much, Senpai, and thanks very much for your inputs then, and even in our friendship situation, you always encouraged me and motivated me to keep doing the work and learn and read more on other issues. Thanks for providing me with the education as well.
Thank you, Tim. Tim, one of the things that I think we're dealing with now is about the selfishness. where some people actually think that Ubuntu could be set aside. This is the very essence of who Africans are. You know, you could see what's happening in Morocco when politically they release middle-class people and others and then take them back very quickly. A number of them have died, even one woman footballer, you know. So really, really, there's something horribly happening in this world that is appearing to be a post-truth world. And I really we need the public broadcast. We need to have real conversations without vested interests. You know, your interest could be for the marginalized, that's fine. But the interest for money and fame and status, it is most obscene.
Sure.
Well, Hassan, thanks very much anyway. I'm in the hands of Cathy. She's running a show, so let me step back for a moment.
We love you guys. Love you guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for those calls. We're going to continue with them in a short while. It's time for the latest 8:30 news update on Dela. Good morning.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development says it is confident that the Expropriation Act will withstand the constitutional challenge in the Western Cape High Court brought by the DA, AfriForum and the Institute of Race Relations. Cooperative Governance Minister Velingosini Hlabisa says publishing the proclamation of the local government elections in the Government Gazette will allow the IEC to set the opening and closing dates for parties to submit their candidate lists. And aerial support has been dispatched to assist firefighting crews responding to the ongoing wildfire above Glofna Corner and the Table Mountain Aerial Cableway in Cape Town. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A lot of traffic coming through Route 1, Mike 1 this morning in Joburg from Gold Reef City up towards Empire Road through double-deckers heavy, and then from Parktown up through Houghton Melrose on your way to Stanton, very slow going as well. N1 at Soweto is eased, but Randburg through to Sunning Hill remains busy. Queues as well on that N3 from Elands up into the Heldnace roadwork area, and major delays coming out of Tembisa or Kempton Park if you use Allendale Road. No traffic lights are massive, and that's a really big backlog from Tembisa side this morning. The N1 South has a breakdown before you get to Rigel Avenue. So a bit of pressure as you leave Pretoria area. N14 on your way to Pretoria stays heavy. That's the Krugersdorp Highway up to the M1 Brockfontein interchange. And a crash earlier on Paul Kruger at Capital Park, still causing some delays there as well. Durban, a collision on the M4 at Virginia Airport. Heavy leaving Umhlanga. Pretty slow getting up from Durban north in towards that scene as well. N2 from Prospecton up towards the M4 remains busy. And just a reminder, if you're leaving the Richards Bay, Mpangeni area, the N2 South closed at eSekoweni due to a cash in transit heist incident just south of eSekoweni, so there'll be some delays and detours around that one. Cape Town this morning, very misty conditions continue to affect visibility across the city and across the metropole. Give yourself time to get through. It's a very busy Monday. M3 queuing Constantia through Hospital Bend, N2 Airport to Hospital Bend. N1 is heavy from Brackenfell into Belleville, and Belleville all the way down to Sable Road. Marine Drive still bad from Sunningdale with queues through to the first lights at Sunset Beach. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai Khan, good morning to you. Okay, so our Commonwealth Games journey has come to an end, was coming to an end, but Team South Africa didn't do too badly at all. The medal tally sitting at 28.
Yeah, Cathy, 28 medals isn't a bad return. But Tim, I'm sure you have an opinion on that.
No, not at this moment.
Not at this moment. Well, we can see Tim's earned his frequent flyer miles. Yeah. Well, we're going to go straight into it. Yeah, we've got Peter Coetzee and company making a splash this morning. We finished 11th on the medals table. The swimming team again carrying the national challenge, winning 23 of those medals from the 28, led by Peter Coetzee, who claimed 6 medals. Athletics contributed 4, including Sinosipho Dambile's 200 meters gold, while judo added 1 medal. But there were disappointments with several sporting codes failing to reach the podium, including the highly rated men's 4x100 meter relay team, who were disqualified in the final after a lane infringement. Akani Simbina believes the disappointment will make the team stronger.
Yeah, 100%. You know, we have so much potential. We've shown it over the years that we have the potential to be one of the greatest relay teams in the world, you know. So for us, I don't think we should put our heads down. just keep on moving forward. We have other opportunities to run relays next year. We have World Championships coming up next year. So just making sure that we get more practice in, get cleaner exchanges, and just make sure we get it done right.
All right, now the Springboks, they've arrived in Buenos Aires. Preparations continuing for Saturday's test against Argentina. After splitting the squad between Argentina and South Africa, coach Rassie Erasmus says the world champions remain firmly on track despite a demanding schedule and the challenge of preparing for both the Los Pumas and the upcoming series against New Zealand.
I think you want to build and build so that when it comes to the crunch match, and I don't think any of us think the other team is going to beat the other team 4-0. I think it's going to be much tougher than that. But we've learned our lessons many times against Argentina. If you take your foot off the pedal, you can get a hiding there. And we certainly want to try and prevent that.
Let's go to the defending champions, football. Orlando Pirates beginning their quest for a record 5th consecutive MTN8 title when the quarterfinals kick off this weekend. The Buccaneers face Durban City on Saturday, while Mamelodi Sundowns will take on Polokwane City in the day's other clash. Sunday sees Kaizer Chiefs returning to Wafa Wafa after missing out last season, with Amakosi taking on Golden Arrows, while Amazulu face Sekhukhune United for the final place in the semi-finals. Now, the PSL is still expected to confirm kickoff times and venues. And finally, Glen Rose Taba successfully defended her Spa Women's 10-kilometer challenge, and this was in Tshwane at the weekend, smashing the course record with a winning time of 32 minutes 28 seconds. The victory keeps the 3-time Spa Grand Prix champion firmly on course for an unprecedented 4th series title.
I'm looking forward to have a great race and enjoy it, because I think Spa is where you feel at home all the time when you're racing. So I really enjoy to run with the ladies and everyone that taking part in the competition.
That's the final whistle for the National Briefing Sport, and that's from me for now. John Gericke will be sprinting back with more sport at around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Yo, listen, casual day, yo, one beat, one drum, hear the sound, let the rhythm move around, beats is one, rhythm matters, sticker on, bring your beats, Friday, 4 September, hit the streets, join the cause, it's casual day, .co.za, beats is one.
This is a SABC-supported initiative.
EFC is live this Thursday, fresh off a championship win.
He was willing to give everything for this title tonight.
Cape Town's Adrian Sanchez puts his interim belt on the line against the man determined to fulfill his family's legacy, Durban's Bradley Swanepoel. Live this Thursday from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer, or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand, and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Deciding to ignore the DIY instructions may only cost you a few hours, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings a year. With Outsurance, 48-year-old Adam saves an unbelievable 1,803 Rand a month on his 2020 Audi Q3. Switch to Outsurance. You too could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Call SAFM now on 086 000 2032.
You're still listening to the National Briefing, our special broadcast, 90 years of SAFM. This is what you can expect throughout the month of August. We're going to be bringing you the voices of SAFM. We're kicking it off with the OG, right? The original voice of SAFM. Tim Modise, Brad Tim Modise in studio with me for today. So, Brad Tim, we're going to continue taking more of our calls. You can see the screen, right? What's happening with our lines? Our lines are packed. Our lines are breaking. This is what you mean to the nation, Brad Tim. I'm going to go to Johannesburg. Kaya, good morning.
Good morning, my sister and my big boss, Brad Tim, and congratulations for having that voice.
No, thanks, Kaya, and welcome.
My sister, my brother Tim, let me tell you something. You make me to commit crime.
Hey,
I was 21 years old, so I find my young my umamncane in isiZulu, he bought a radio.
Yeah.
So that radio was dubbed. I asked my mom, what's wrong with this radio? He said, no, I don't know what's wrong. When I bought it at All Family Nongom, it was right, but now it looks like something wrong. You know, there is that button AM and FM.
Yes.
Because I'm a clever boy, I did notice that it is AM in case that NFAM was not coming right. So he said, no, you can take it. I just take the radio and go home because my home is in Fayette, actually. I bought a battery. It was afternoon, Tim Modise, when I opened the radio, and I and do you say, hey, thank you very much for tuning SAFM. My name is Tim Modise. It was 37 years back. I was caught by that voice. What kind of voice is that? From there, Tim Modise, I become a family of SAFM.
No, thanks very much for supporting SAFM all these years until now.
Yes, my brother. Thank you very much. And I like to say to SABC, happy birthday for this 90 years, and Katie with the 18 listeners. We love you. I don't know what to say, but I'm more than excited just to hear your voice, Kate.
Wow.
Sure.
Wow, Kaya. Thanks for that call. But Tim, I mean, think about that. Over 37 years of tuning into SAFM, and you were the first voice.
In a way.
No, that's what he said when he tuned in. Your voice was
him?
Yes, for him. Absolutely for him.
Well, Cathy, you are very much part of the story, right? And I'm your guest here today. So I'm also privileged to be hosted by you as the station celebrates.
Don't give me flowers yet. I must earn my flowers. I must earn my flowers. Don't give me flowers too soon. Eunice, you're in Joburg. Good morning.
Hi there, Cathy. Cathy, lovely for you to be having a legend in your studios with you there. Tim, how's it there?
I'm all right. How are you, Eunice?
Well, keep still fighting, my friend, the same old fight.
I remember now, Eunice was one of the very prominent voices on the station then. And always, as he says, fighting a good fight.
It's still fighting.
Yeah, and one of
still fighting.
One of the good things is, even if it was early days in terms of democracy, people were very much outspoken. They did not take any, for lack of a word, any nonsense from anyone. Yeah.
Some of the issues we raised with Tim 20 odd years ago, Cathy, locally and internationally, are still prevalent till today. If you look, I can recall once telling Tim, problem locally is that the politicians, a lot of them have abandoned the toy and they've taken on the politicians' polka. Tim asked me, what's the politician's polka? So I told him 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
I remember that.
And the real issues are sidestepped.
Yeah, and anyway, here we are. Cathy, but
yeah, we're still fighting. Cathy, as far as the SABC goes, congratulations, happy birthday to them. And Tim, keep going. You were a legend, the likes of you, John Kwelane. We won't forget you guys, and keep fighting. It's still out there, and our call is still from then when I told you till now, Asbasabi Siyabafuna.
There we go. Yes. No, thank you very much for your compliments.
Yusuf, thanks for that. Eunice, thanks for that call. All right, I'm going to go to Becky. Becky, you're in Mbombela. Good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, our extraordinary and our legendary encyclopedia of the airwaves, Brati.
Hey, Becky, morning.
You know, Becky, I never get these kind of intros when I'm by myself, eh? Why don't you ever say our extraordinary encyclopedia, our know-it-all? I'm just teasing. Go for it.
I believe you have done very well for yourself, Katie, this far, even though you refuse to be given your flowers this stage. But I want to thank Pratim first to be here today. Everyone has been longing to speak to this voice, and everyone has been longing to hear this voice. But when you take this combination of your voice and Pratim, it makes a very beautiful melody that one can listen to on radio. My contribution today that I wanted to talk about is my disappointment with the death of the people in the Western Cape. And this time around, people must not talk about models to say that it is the ANC, it is the DA, and so on. But it takes a community to build the nation and to build a child. I would say that all the security agencies of the Western Cape with the government must work together to try and resolve this conundrum, because it has been blown out of proportion. And for that, I believe that there will be a concrete solution. Okay. Anyway, Pratim, thank you very much. This is Katie. We love you so much, and we'll keep on listening to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Becky. And you know, Pratim, I mean, it makes me think about what is the value of a state of emergency if it's not going to produce results. Having 172 people killed in 2 weeks in the Western Cape, the fact that the army has been deployed from the beginning of the year, that is a state of emergency. But that nothing changes is even more concerning.
I think it's I think we don't talk about values enough in South Africa. That what kind of people do we want to be? And I think the best way, or one of the ways to achieve that, is to always put the values of our society front and center on one hand, and on the other, create socio-economic opportunities as broadly as possible. So, you know, in certain places of the Western Cape, for instance, it's already a norm, an acceptable way of life that there's gangsterism, that people can kill one another, and then we move on, and then next week people get killed, and then we count the numbers, and then the response is a violent one again. So it's a cycle that repeats itself. So in due time, as a community, you get used to that fact, that this is how we live anyway. Whereas if we came up with projects or whatever means at the local level where we inculcated values that promoted peace and a constructive way of living with one another, it will take time, but it will make more of a difference. For now, an eye for an eye, gun for a gun type of thing is not going to work. But unfortunately, children who are raised in those types of environments, they end up participating in the violence themselves. Yeah. And we get used to it.
We have to find a way of breaking that cycle. Let me go to Nkandla. Nkosinati, good morning. You want to reflect on the interview we had with the Women's Minister, Sindisiwe Chikunga?
Yes, thank you, Tim and Kathy. Yes, but before, I just wanna say good morning to Tim. Kathy, in Zulu, you see, when you're gonna come in with the show, there is one song that you come in, and there's one song that I need you to get it, which Tim was coming with it those years. I don't know why it is, but this is the last time I heard it when he was on the radio. He said, I need, you must get that song. That, because when he came with that song, it all still ringing even in our minds, because we know what was going to come, negotiations, especially when early 90s, before the 1994. And so I think a team is on edge, but unfortunately, Kathy, I can feel, I can hear all those generations we are a hurt one, because if you listen to Tim when he tells you how things were moving, how things were fast, and we had a big hope at the time. But now, when I was listening to the minister today, that's what we lost the hope. I was so shocked to hear the minister talking about the people, the women getting empowerment, but she's unable to say what his department or he's doing or he's going to do. But he's telling us about the other departments that they should. I'm so shocked. It's painful. I'm telling you, especially we are the old generation coming from that time, because now we had a hope and that our people are going to change it. Something like, yes, at the moment that we got a big hope about this ITEC, that something is going to happen. But now my problem I'm still having, it has to be reported to the parliament. What the parliament has been there, it has never done nothing. Now it means that it's still going to go back. That's my question I'm having.
Okay.
Yes, that's my hope.
All right.
I just hope something's going to happen earlier. Thank you.
Nkosinati, we're going to leave it there for this morning. So here's what we'll do, Brad Tim. We'll take the latest traffic update with Rob. We'll get into Bolton and Mzansi and then only say goodbye at the closer to the top of 9 o'clock. So let me hand you over to Rob with the latest traffic update.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretoria first up, very heavy on Paul Kruger from Capital Park going into the CBD. There was a crash earlier at Capital Park. Looks like that's being cleared, but a really big backlog into the city centre from that Capital Park area. N1 South, a crash near Borta Avenue. Delays from Rigel. N14, the Krugersdorp Highway towards Brockfontein on your way to Pretoria. That's still heavy backlogs going on there as well. Allendale Road from Tembisa across Midrand, jam-packed. Olifantsfontein from Blue Hills, closer you get to the highway bridge, the heavier that traffic gets. Winnie Mandela coming off Peter Place, down through Republic into Santon Drive, Parkmore side. Very heavy crash on the N12 and R24 routes approaching Galuli's interchange, causing delays in from the Ekurhuleni side. Just north of KZN, well, northern parts of KZN, the run from Mpangeni and Richards Bay towards Durban, the road closed at eSekhawini, just on the southbound side, and that's for an earlier cash in transit heist. The M4 South, a crash near Virginia Airport, still slow out of Umhlanga, and the N2 North through Spaghetti Junction all the way to Umgena Road, queuing up this morning on that northbound track. Cape Town very busy largely. It's a combo of weight of traffic and very heavy mist across the region. N1 from Brackenfell right through to Sable Road. N7 both ways to Bosmansdam is heavy, and an earlier crash on the M5 up at the N2 highway means a delay coming through from Kenilworth side. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
In case you're on the highway, driving to your first big maize delivery, and something mysterious happens. You stop at the garage to scope the damage. You realize the fuel system is kinda dear my car. You panic. But then you take a deep breath. Because you know Hino Care Gap Cover is there to cover anything outside the standard 6-year warranty. From steering columns to ABS control modules, it's the unseen essential in your business. Speak to your Hino dealer. T's and C's apply. Hino. All the way.
To save money, you drive to the specific garage where you get fuel rewards. So why not spend 10 minutes getting an OUTsurance car insurance quote like 48-year-old Sylvia, who saves...
I'm saving 802 Rand per month. It came out the best. Drop your old insurance so that you can save a lot of money.
That's a mind-blowing 802 Rand saving on Sylvia's 2019 BMW X1. Do it now. SMS out to 30754. OUTsurance saves 50-year-old Lawrence 309 Rand on his 2025 Volkswagen T-Cross.
309 Rand. I accepted the quote. Didn't shop around. Didn't need to. Click, click, ring, ring.
Another satisfied OUTsurance client. And with help at Out, you also get benefits like 24/7 roadside assistance and loads more. How much money could OUTsurance save you? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insured FSP. TCs and information online. Limits apply.
Built in Mzansi on the National Briefing.
Well, let's get into our Built-in Mzansi segment for today. In 2022, in KwaZulu-Natal, the floods tore through Inanda and left the ground covered in fallen trees. Most people saw wreckage, Busisiwe Mbanda saw fuel. She now turns wood waste and invasive alien plants into charcoal briquettes that burn hotter and longer than some of the conventional stuff. Busisiwe, good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good morning to all SAfm listeners across South Africa and beyond, and a warm greeting to the amazing presenters.
So you looked at the debris, right, of those floods, and you saw an opportunity. What was the moment that the idea landed?
Okay. When I saw the floods, changed my perspective while many saw destruction. So I saw an opportunity. I wanted to turn waste into a solution that protects the environment, creates jobs, and provides affordable and clean energy. That's how Volcanic was born.
How did you bring it to life, Busisiwe? Surely you needed to start somewhere.
Yeah, it wasn't easy for me because when I started as a tripling service company. So when we have during floods 2022, people will have the issue of the trees that were falling on their houses, the trees that were falling on the road. So we were helping those people, and at Inanda people don't use that wood. So we were supposed to take them and bring it on our own yard. So when we have a full of wood in our own yard, it's when we saw the opportunity. How can I turn this into something that can be a solution? Because we have a lot of waste, especially even even municipality. They take those trees and go to the dumping site to dump it. But we saw that this causes an air pollution. So we need to come up with something that will be useful even in our community and also create the jobs while we also turn waste into a solution.
What have you found to be the response of the community, Busisiwe? Are people taking it up? Are you getting lots of orders?
Yes, I did get lots of orders in such a way. I also have an intern letter from Namibia, which shows that we have even a potential to export our charcoal briquettes. But the issue that we're using manual machinery, which takes a long process. So if we can get maybe an investment, we can invest on modern equipment so that we can increase our production that will create jobs and supply both local and international markets.
Wow. Busisiwe, that's all I can say. Absolutely incredible story. The minister was talking about how this Women's Month, women need to be supported with capital. People like Busisiwe are the people that the department should be finding and intentionally building relationships with institutions, unlocking capital for them to help scale up their businesses, make what was possible not possible before. But Tim, I don't know where the time has gone.
You know what happens when you're having a great time with friends and wonderful colleagues like yourself. You get lost in time. And this is, I think, the song that we're talking about. This used to be...
It's bringing a smile on your face, Tim. I can see you're blushing now. You're blushing.
Yeah, I used to put a lot of energy into me. Whenever I had it, then I'll go for it. I'll think like the performers think when they get their show underway. So it was my way to give myself that spirit, that yes, to go for it.
You can hear he's now ready to take over Joanne. He's like, okay, Joanne, I've still got another 3 hours in me.
Thanks, Lebo.
Brad Tim, it's been an honor having you on air with us on the National Briefing. I truly appreciate it. You've set the bar very high, by the way. And I think we take up the challenge for how much more we can be doing to strengthen the platform and to strengthen the voices that it represents for South Africans.
And you are definitely doing a wonderful job, irrespective of whatever challenges you come across, and you remain yourself, in particular, an important voice in our society. So many people look forward to your broadcasts, including myself.
Brad Tim, this is the biggest compliment for me. So before you leave, what can you leave with our listeners? One message as we celebrate 90 years.
Well, again, let's build the solidarity that we used to have as communities, as people, especially in the struggling, depressed communities. Given the high unemployment rate of young people in South Africa, let's not abandon them and pursue our own selfish interests as individuals. Let's continue in the old spirit of Ubuntu, of solidarity, and we can only do so one conversation at a time.
In one sentence, what does SAFM mean to South Africa?
This is the voice of the nation. This is your platform. And this is where your issues, your challenges should be aired, as well as ideas for how we take South Africa forward. SAFM should be at the forefront of speaking on behalf of all of us.
All right, somebody edit the promo already. I mean, what is that? Come on. Tim Modise on the National Briefing. Joe, sorry, I think today we've stolen 2 minutes from the program. Let's hand you over to the latest news update, to the news desk for the latest news update.
Thank you, Cathy, Bratim, and the team on the top stories. Government reacts to Expropriation Act court challenges, and Nafiz Modise case expected to resume in court today. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. The Department of Land Reform and Rural Development says it is confident that the Expropriation Act will withstand the constitutional challenge in the Western Cape High Court brought by the DA, AfriForum, and the Institute of Race Relations. The organizations are seeking to have the act